Good morning, members, and to the viewing public. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Commissioner, for making yourself present today, along with your management team, in regards to your budget submittal. And with that, can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda? There has been a motion, has been seconded in discussion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Um, we have enough members here that constitutes a quorum. With that, I will now open the public comment. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to make comments with regards to the budget submittal for PSS? Please state your name and for the record. Thank you.
My name is Jane Mosander, for the record.
Good.
Honorable legislatures, my name is Jane Mosander, and today I stand before you as a student graduate, a leader, and a representative of the future of the CNMI. I come not with just facts and figures, but with a story that you are a crucial part of writing. Imagine, if you will, a classroom. Picture it as a garden. Our teachers are the gardeners, dedicated and passionate, planting seeds of knowledge and nurturing them with care. But what happens to a garden without water, without sunlight, without the tools to tend to it? The plants wither, the flowers fail to bloom, and the potential of a thriving ecosystem is lost. This, honorable members, is what happens to our education system without adequate funding. In our classrooms, teachers strive to provide the best education possible, often going above and beyond, dipping into their own pockets to buy supplies. But there is only so much that they can do with limited resources. When textbooks are outdated, when technology is insufficient, when basic supplies are scarce, the quality of education diminishes. Imagine trying to cultivate a garden with broken tools. It's an impossible task. Now let's talk about the environment in which we learn. Picture our school buildings as the soil that anchors our educational garden. Many of these buildings are in desperate need of repair. Cracks in the walls, leaking roofs, and broken air conditioners are the weeds choking the life out of our learning environment. Just as plants need fertile soil to grow, we students need safe, comfortable, and well maintained schools to thrive. Beyond the traditional classroom, think of the extracurricular activities as the sunlight that helps us grow beyond the confines of academic learning. Sports, arts, music, these are the rays that illuminate our hidden talents, boost our confidence, and teach us invaluable life skills. However, when budgets are slashed, these programs are the first to be cut, casting a shadow over our potential. But it's not just about meeting immediate needs. It's about envisioning a future where the CNMI stands tall and proud, a beacon of educational excellence in the Pacific. When you invest in our future, in our education, you're planting the seeds for a prosperous future. A well educated populace drives economic growth, fosters innovation, and creates a more equitable society. As a student, I can tell you that the impact of your decisions will resonate far beyond these walls. You have the power to transform our schools from struggling gardens into flourishing landscapes where every student has the opportunity to blossom. I ask you to be the sunlight, the water, and the fertile soil that our education system desperately needs. Help us grow, help us learn, and help us reach our fullest potential. Your support in providing adequate funding for the CNMI public school system is not just an investment in education, it is an investment in the future of our islands. Honorable legislatures, when you were once students, the legislatures at that time had invested in you and cultivated your education garden. It was because of their great investment that you blossomed, you flourished, and ended up in those same chairs today. Help us grow our garden. Thank you for your time and consideration, and let us cultivate a brighter future together.
Thank you, Miss Jane.
Buenos días, Honorable Congreso. Naonu si Juan Iguer Tenorio. Tumutagizo Paugo Gimenan Mizo para behu gago sa potasyon Mizo sa maajudadi i Departamento ng Edukasyon sa Guida Estina Departamento ng Futuran Marianas Guida Estina Departamento i para ususteni nila la ifamagonta cosa que un tempo o fan pareho janhita tamana pago anya imangayamzo tisinya tanalola itano jangin titabira intentionta attentionta e fue sotta jatano estina departamento ni hafa a necesita finesti padgun para una lola itinanum cosa que sinya man makusetsa lo imas na tumotagizo gwini gimenan mizo ibegogo hamzo din atang kabalis edukasyon ti math ti isosyat ti English ti enowa ikultura afay kultura ilingwahi ti sinya ta protehi ilingwahi jangin ti tanai nino na sa potasyon Honorable Kongreso ng Kongresa mga zo muna ayam zo hafa i problema sa tingin na manggagi i manmagas para una ayam zo ni problema logwaho kumutata janbihu para famagono beo gagawam zo na por favor sa pote lingwahi sa moro jan Rafalawas Carolinian tisinya patasigi ha umatan muna edukasyon sa tasangan na ay maulika English philosophy science maulika siya tada binabanya sano naman ako mo ni famaguon lo jangi ni famagonta ti matungo manfino ikulturan niya agupanya todin man pareho man malingo ututuhon humano man atan danumekungok familia e komunidad todas ta kumekwentos safa sa guasta mastak fena talkusti maagang technology ay toda binabanyan no naman matosin famagong galong cafeteria si Marajan si Pedro matotosong loto kumekwentos si dos telefona maatan matugigima Duruman Fino-Amerikano at toda na binabanya. Loko enno fundamento ta ni tautono iparata na falingo ikutura. Lingwahe sumusetani ikutura. Navin Americano, masagayo rasa from America kanowa. Lalong gumata, necessário, preciso, dan por favor, tafanawi famagonta, fino tamoro, dan fino rafalawas. Pues be gagawin zo na por favor, sapot na ilingwahe, niya po protehi ikutura, sa enigi, muna manggagit gwini, ay ti manggagit gwini po para mas kisaya hafa, imas takfena, na imas preciso gizagwaho, ikutura. Augusta 22 años tempoco, gwini na departamento, deste maestro sta hulo, nyogote posisyon takilo, ane pa ba nagwaha programa. Dispensa, lo tulili eno siya pago. Hafaw lili, nuevo na technology, mablangkuzo ng bola gi plaza, madulak famagunzo, madulak gi bola, man matotang da duro gi telefon, aten no. Nisita gwaha finanagwi, kabalis, estaya latsani man mafotwe ginin sports games, international, si Zos Masi para todi man manazuda, todo jisay oro ni matsuli magi, na mago, mano ne potutuhun eno na programa, sige, edukasyon. Nai ni afa manisisita, cosa kisinya umatsagi, ni nasinania, ni profil manazuda, parehuha gihinemlo. Science, math, social study, English, jani kultura. Sa hafa, sa enigi, optimum fundamentota, gwini kitano, ipta parata protei, e kulturata. Si Zos Masi, jan buenos dias.
Thank you, Mr. Tenorio. Any further comments from the gallery?
Tiro. Good morning and buenos dias, Chair and members. Guahu si Malua Taisakan Peter. Gai gizu gwini ukuntan mamay sazu zani familia ko. Zan todo itauto ni mantinetika. Zani especialmente i comunidad de followers. Zan loke todo estudiante gwini gisiya namay. Gai gizu gwini para besupot ta hafa ginagagaw niya i public school system ni afa linya niya kabalis para ma-assisti estudiante zo fan hanaw mo na ti ufan hanaw tati. Waha katta gini ni ma-open letter ginin esti i-26 na estudiante ni man gaigi pago na man matre-training, man gaigi workshop, mapipapara siya para ufan ma-empleya para ufan halum gi program and followers program, bilingual program. Man pininiti sa tisina ufan gaigi gini sa umasupot ta i-baza di public school system. Zan loki i-offer siya malagonia pero fan ginagaw sa timatungos ta para manusia besizigi na humuzong estinakata. Ma-address na open letter para si Speaker Villagomez. Dear Speaker Villagomez, we are writing, or he is writing on behalf of his colleagues who are currently enrolled in the Chamorro and Carolinian Language Heritage Studies, CCLHS, program with the University of Guam. We are a dedicated group of 26 students who have made significant personal and professional sacrifices to participate in this training. Our goal is to preserve and teach the Chamorro and Carolinian languages, ensuring they continue to thrive for future generations. We understand that a public school system encompassing subjects like language, math, science, and more is requesting additional funding from the legislature to support the programs like ours. We fully support these funding requests as it is crucial for the continuation and success of language preservation initiatives and comprehensive educational programs that benefit not only our current cohort, but also future students and the wider community. However, we would like to bring to your attention, and this is the part that they have written because they're nowhere else to go to seek assistance to be treated like the rest of the human beings. We would like to bring to your attention some concerns regarding the commitments made to us at the starting of our training. And before I go forward, I would like you all to know that I know where this 2-paragraph goes. It's supposed to go to the commissioner, but because they had asked me to do this on their behalf, I will do it. We were promised full-time employment opportunities upon the successful completion of our training, with assurance of 30 to 50 full-time employee FTE positions available to us. Additionally, we were promised incentives of $300 to $25 per course upon achieving our certification. Recently, we have been informed that the management now intends to place us through the workforce investment, WIA, for 90-day probation period, and only offer $300 for entire course. In regards to WIA, we haven't heard anything or seen any MOA with PSS. Note, that's to be noted. Furthermore, it is important to note that there is currently a disparity in the number of Chamorro and Carolinian teachers within the public school system. The training program specifically focuses on Carolinian content to address this imbalance and to infuse the public school system with qualified Carolinian instructors. Our dedication to this cause underscores the importance of preserving and promoting Carolinian culture heritage through education. Due to the ongoing intensity of our training, we regret that we are not able to attend this hearing. Nevertheless, we sincerely hope that our concerns as outlined in this letter will be read and heard during the proceedings. We kindly request the intervention of the legislature to ensure the management honors the initial promises made to us, including both the full-time employment positions and the originally stated incentives per course. Our goal is to contribute effectively and efficiently to the organization and to pass on our cultural heritage and educational expertise through languages. Securing the promised full-time positions and intensive would enable us to do so without the additional strain and uncertainty of a probationary period through the WIA or reduced financial support. We believe that by supporting the funding request by the public school system, the legislature can address our concerns and ensure the success of comprehensive educational programs like CCLHS. This support would not only benefit us, the current participants, but also ensure continued preservation and teaching of the Chamorro and Carolinian languages, as well as the enhancement of educational outcomes in various subjects across the curriculum. We appreciate your understanding and consideration of our situation. We are eager to discuss this matter further and find a solution that honors the original commitments made to us while supporting the overall goals of the public school system. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Knowledge of Language is a Doorway to Wisdom by Roger Bacon. Sincerely, concerned students of the Chamorro and Carolinian Language Heritage Studies Program participants, and I have their signatures here, and there are about 4 signatures missing. With that, I now would like to speak from my own mind, heart, and soul. It has been heard, learned, evidence that the follow-up program under the PSS hasn't been treated equally with the Tomorrow program. I hate standing here to bring this to your attention. And every time we ask for something, the legislature did not give us the amount that we needed to hire more follow-up teachers. I am almost 80. I was brought up. I was discriminated against because of how God made me. And this is how they continue, or the follower students and the community have been treated. And if the PSS are not educated, like the one hollering out there that the followers people don't belong here, I wouldn't mind. But they're all professionals. We trust them. We believe in them, their time. We're all human. But how could we move forward when someone is doing good and the contract is up, 2 years up? Here comes the letter. You're out by this date. Instead of finding ways to see how we can move forward, if there's something wrong that they did, you just don't kick them out. Sit them down and see what you can do. This is not the time to contribute to the problems the families are facing these days. Man mamadidesi tao to. Zagof libyano. For whatever reason, personal, professional, let's look at the students. What does the PSS have? Students first? No. If you look at the student, you see the culture. My culture first. Forget you. That is not what PSS is. And I am saddened to stand here on behalf of not only the Carolinian people, those that are not treated the same because of the choice of people that are carrying this program out. I am so sorry that I am saying this. I hate it, and I cannot continue to live on without doing something to protect the young generations, those generations that are coming behind us. And with that, I would like to have you please to take note with my next suggestions to the Board of Education and the Commissioner to help determine how much the requester of all budget, all the department heads that are coming here for you to hear them and give them what they need. I would like to ask the Ways and Means Committee, together with the Education Chair and Committee, to please take time. It's not a fault search or whatever you call it, not to get in there and find faults. See what you can do to help them move forward. This is not a fact-finding of mistakes that people do. Look at what you can do to help them. We have to put a stop to digging into people's activities and just fire them. No, we need to help each other out. If you see what the PSS is requesting for, what we need is, before next request, maybe ask of the outcome of the 800,000, 500,000 that we requested for books. Where are the books? How many students were given the books? What happened? So with that, I would like to ask that you conduct oversight hearing. This will give you a picture of how the system is running its program. It is a very helpful means of getting information, not only the PSS, but for other autonomous agencies, as well as department if need be. Second, and maybe this will work very much with the internal program, audit, accountability. They have their own internal audit. I would like that you request for an audit so that with the situation of our economy now, we need to do that so that we can help each other share what we have. If there's too much for this department, get some and give it to public school system like they already testified earlier. And we don't need to come here and tell you that because you know that without the school system, we will not be sitting here. That's the audit. And for the commissioner, and it's not for me to tell him, maybe the board, to do a restrictive desk audit, honest with the desk audit, and see how many people are getting more with less work and how many people are getting less with more work. This is my suggestions, and I feel that this will help everyone. And I would like to ask the board and the public school system overall. As a former lawmaker, I was surprised to even think of this. The 25% that the Constitution requires, we should be honest to ourselves, live within our means, because we might not get that because we do not have the money to give you the 25%. That is why the steps that I'm suggesting, I personally, because we did that, will help a lot on how to determine how much are we not giving the public school system. But we all must understand that the 25% will not be possible with our current situation. And please give public school system what they are presenting to you so that they can move on for the education of our children of the CNMI. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Peter. If you would like the letter to be sent to the proper committee, please hand it over to them. Thank you. Is there any further comments from the gallery?
Buenos dias and lesor mamai, half a day, and tiro. My name is Nasima Uden, and I am here with my community members of the Rafalawash community, Carolinian community. As a parent with fellow teachers, educators, past and present leaders. I am here to also state and reiterate the importance of our language and our culture. We are all the children of the CNMI. The CNMI has 3 official languages: English, Chamorro, and Carolinian. Somehow, along the way, we forgot about that. Our CCLHS program, specifically the Carolinian program, is failing. From what it was to what it is now is very sad to see. We have to stay true to our roots. Look at our flag, look at the lands that we live in, and teach our children how not to forget who they are and wherever they go in this world, where they come from. Why is that important? It builds courage. It instills values. And it makes you stay grounded as a person. It helps you make decisions along the way. I am here because year after year, I've been hearing there is no money to hire teachers, Carolinian teachers. No one is applying, but yet when I speak to the community, there have been people that are applying. I've been hearing there are no qualified applicants, but yet the qualifications and the certifications are person to person. I'm here because I just want equity along the board. I've been attending meetings with the commissioner, with the board, with fellow members. They know that this is the same thing I've been repeating for the past few commissioners and now the current Dr. Camacho. If we keep saying, we keep hearing, we need more teachers, but there's no money, I just want to know, then what are we doing with the money that we have? There are currently less than 10 full-time Carolinian teachers. That number has remained less than 10 for years. Now the answer to raise that was bring in independent contractors. But they are still teachers, Carolinian teachers. How is that fair when they don't receive benefits and their contract can get cut any second? So I'm here to ask, yes, we do need funding for the community, but we also need accountability within ourselves. This economy, people are struggling. And we, the parents, we, the community, are really struggling as well. We'd like more answers than, well, we need more money, but we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it at the school level with teachers not having classrooms. They're roaming around, not having books. No resources to work off of. It is deeply saddening that there's 10, 20-year-old textbooks that are being shared with the community, with the teachers.
And
I still care, and that's why I'm here to ask for more ways in which Auntie Malua stated. I think we can hold each other accountable. And we, as taxpayers, deserve more answers. Thank you very much. Kiliso, Zansizu Smasi.
thank you, Ms. Nasima. Um,
Buenos días, con respeto y saludo, honorable, and todo man presente, Commissioner. No si Gregory Michael Olopay Tuwai. No se enseña bihi fino refaluas. lo debe na bipula sa pun comprendi, right? So for the sake of understanding, then comprehension of what I am about to share today, I'm going to speak in English so that everybody can understand. My name in Rafaloaj is Perang, and I came to find out there's two meaning of that. The Saipan meaning means consisting of three words, A, P, Rang, and it means a single flower petal. I was named after a medicinal plant that was used by Rafaloaj natives. The other meaning is A, P, Ran, from the Soh and outer island of Chuk, which means one clear day. I was named after my great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, because he was an only child, and I'm an only child as well. I am a former Head Start teacher and a concerned citizen who is truly passionate about the Rafaloaj language, people, culture, and way of life. I am compelled to speak out about the plight of our Carolinian bilingual teachers and the urgent need for language and cultural revitalization. As I stand before you today, I am reminded of my late Uncle Frank Olopay, who was the former Carolinian bilingual director and member of the creator of our first ever Carolinian English dictionary, and his parting words to me 24 years ago before I made my trip to the US. He said, "Michael, I don't care if you become the President of the United States or a Prime Minister of a country. Don't ever forget your bloodline, where you came from, and your heritage." His words resonate deeply in my heart, and I am committed to honoring our family's legacy and our people's heritage. As I reconnect with our community and met with Carolinian bilingual teachers and also a representative of UH Manoa conducting a language revitalization program in Wolia, I am compelled to speak out about the plight of our Carolinian bilingual teachers and the urgent need for language and cultural revitalization. Our language, culture, and heritage are the very fabric of our identity, which makes up who we are, and I fear for their survival if we don't take action. In last year's budget hearing presented by PSS highlighted the commissioner's commitment to serving 9,000 students across 3 islands, 20 schools, and 9 Head Start centers with 911 full-time employees. The 2024 budget request he shared was built on data-driven analysis, considering staffing patterns, enrollment projections, school allocations, student services, and program assessments. However, I am concerned that the budget allocation falls short of addressing the needs of our language and cultural programs. The Commissioner emphasized PSS commitment in fulfilling its obligation, coordinating with stakeholders and providing necessary curriculum and instructional programs. I applaud this commitment, but I also urge you to recognize that our students, teachers, parents, and community are the true stakeholders who deserve the best education possible. Representative Manny Castro rightly highlighted the constitutional mandate for education, which requires PSS to provide free, compulsory, and public elementary and secondary education sensitive to the needs and desires of our community. The mandate also requires recognition and preservation of our distinct cultural heritage and indigenous way of life. I am here because of that. I am a part of that community. In conclusion, I humbly request that the Ways and Means Committee hold PSS accountable for greater transparency, follow-through, and adherence to the constitutional mandate, particularly in regards to the poorly funded, understaffed, and overlooked CCLHS program and the Carolinian bilingual teachers. Let us work together to ensure the survival and thriving of our Refaluas language, culture, and heritage for generations to come. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Tawai.
Tiro, Fairo. My name is Melvin Faisal. I'm a resident of the Kagman, Nizuron Street in Kagman 3. I'm here in support of the public school system budget. However, we must put in our head also in our heart that we have survived 4 colonial powers: Spanish, German, Japanese, and the TTU, and here we are. And we all know that language is the umbilical cord of arts and culture. And I'm here to make a suggestion to the Ways and Means that the public school system is exempted from paying the 1% public auditor fee. Maybe you should use that 1% out of the 38 million budget that they're asking, which is 380,000, take certain percentage of that and allot it to the Chamorro Carolinian Language Heritage Study. That way, that particular program within PSS will be funded and the program will continue to serve the Carolinian and the Chamorro in language and art. And with that, Hiliso, Olamay, and Sejus Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Faisal.
Ang mag-umugaan lesor mamay nga likami tiro wal olomay remi manana si Zeus. Good morning. Guahui lahin mizu ibisinun mizu. Si John Oliver Bolis de los Reyes Gonzalez. Zagay gizu pa gugwini ngang iloy he hila bwe. Iki musrel bay butitilap rel meta sibu alferi rel malawash rel yash kosh rel armasash rel yigay faluash. Kay guzugwini para bay hukwentus pa guna ogan kumutata as a father, as a widower / mother, and as a bastion and guardian and steward of #who matters and #what matters to us. By tutuhun, I'm shaking a little bit because it's deep. This is really, really deep. I begin with my grandmother's lasting proverbial advice. Thankfully, I was raised by my grandmother, Nang Lucia Bolis. And she always reminded me, if you know Chamorro, or our mother tongue, Tadza balimo, zangin tadza rispitumo, zan malefaho no ihalemo. You are of no value if you forgot where you're from and you don't have the self-respect. Hasuginin manuhaw, adahi ihinanaw mo, sino ke un abak gikarirao mo. Never forget where you're from. Be careful and be prudent in your journeys. Otherwise, you'll be lost. I speak as the NMDC president, Northern Marianas Descent Corporation president, founder and treasurer of Tamulinian Cultural Village, Inc., that has all have been created and established for one primary and principal reason, and that is to advocate for what matters and who matters, our people and others who call the Northern Marianas our cultural homeland and our home as one community. I remember and I support the commissioners and the Board of Education's budget for so many years, 40 plus years to date. They have never gotten, hopefully, a sensible basis of their budget requests, because we're always saying, oh, there's federal funds to supplement and complement it. Begogo hamzu por favor, what matters to us? Are we always going to say, Uncle Sam, no, we're not going to put in our share because you're there? Palau, FSM, Hawaii, Guam, they put money into our culture and arts and our people because that's what matters and who matters. And then when my wife was alive, they would compliment me, which is quite ironic. When we go to Joten, Costco, the time we go out to Sabalo Market, I had day na bininito today, Charlene's and John, because your children can speak 3 languages, and including the Chamorro languages. I thought that was odd because education and culture and arts begins and ends at home, supplemented and complemented by our public school system. And that should be our penultimate basic reminder of what matters and who matters. And I'm here to ask to please prioritize our people. If toitano, aramasas, yashkosh, ilingwahita, ilingwahin, ila nanotas and tatota. And I remember back in Commissioner and Board of Education, the CCLHS program. It's funny because I've been wanting to participate in that as a contributor, given my personal mission and advocacy. I wanted to apply, but my classmate, Lumi Bermudez, applied. And bless her soul, she supported the CCLHS program. Jonas Brasinas applied. I did not apply. And now that I'm ready to apply, it's now on the chopping block. I hope not. We must please support our arts and culture program. Bring the programs out to the villages, to our beach, to our farms, because as soon as we continue and not prioritize and fund our language and cultural heritage studies, we are ABAC. We're going to be lost. Please protect and preserve what others are envy us for. Our lands, our maritime resources, our culture and our language. They look to us. Let us not fumble and lose sight of what remains our perennial legacy of keeping and preserving who we are as a special people, and why tourists ought to come back again with our culture, language, food, and what makes us unique and special. And I honor Margarita Sarapao, Nansilang Taitano, David Omar, Joe Limes, Tata Louie Limes, all of our founders, Zantodo siya, si Carmen Taima niyo, Marciano, Dito Kinyadong, Ling Marciano, and all of the founders of our arts and culture. Let's keep their legacy alive. Let's make sure, please, that our children know who they are, where they're from, so that their future is as vibrant and dynamic as their talents and God-given gifts are. Please prioritize PSS, our children if mag-uunta, and our language arts heritage studies. Si Zeus Masi, za I manaynata, mangwilota, ugiyahid sa nuiskay hunin muna. God bless. Si Zeus Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Is there anyone else? Okay. Being there's none, with that, we'll move on to item 4. I believe our chairman for education is here. I'm sure he prepared questions. With that, may I have the Commissioner, Dr. Camacho, step forward, and I guess if we can have the members move up a little, so we can have the uh, team, management team of PSS move forward, and whoever's going to speak on behalf of PSS. No. Yeah. Also present with us, we have OMB here, Miss V and Miss Jasmine. Thank you for being here. I'm sure we have many questions for. Um, Commissioner, is there any member from the Board of Commissioners or Education here?
We have Mr. Borja present here from the
Okay.
Board of Education.
Is he going to make a statement on behalf of the board, or?
No,
Okay, thank you.
but he's more than welcome to come up
Sure.
and join us at the table.
With that, thank you again, Commissioner, for making yourself present. I will now offer you the floor for your opening statement and for the presentation of your 2025 budget. Thank you.
Mrs. Masi, thank you. Good morning, buenas and half a day, Zantiruwami. Dear honorable members of the CNMI House of Representatives, on behalf of the CNMI public school system, I come to this body humbled and honored to present our Students First and Educators Always budget proposal, a proposal that requires your continued commitment to prioritize the education of our students, one which positively impacts the learning opportunities for their growth in a rapidly changing educational landscape, and furthermore, one that embraces innovation and strategic adaptation. It is important to note that at this point in our PSS history, fiscal year 2025 has been identified to be the beginning of the Post-American Rescue Plan Act, that is the Arpa funding period. And as a result, we have submitted a request for local funds in the amount of $39,609,130, guided by the following utilization plan. Number one, to fund personnel. This will sustain the retention and of good teachers and reduce the cost of attrition and turnovers by offering salaries that are comparable with our U.S. mainland counterparts. And secondly, to fund school operations. This will improve school facilities and provide a safe and healthy learning environment for all of our students. Third, to promote health and well-being. PSS continues to give great emphasis on a healthy lifestyle for our stakeholders with programs that prevent childhood obesity and chronic disease by promoting sports, exercise, and well-being. And finally, for continued investment, we also emphasize the need to acquire updated instructional materials and professional development that supports the implementation with fidelity while meeting the needs of every child. It is worth noting at this point that this budget request will allow us to continue operating all of our 20 schools 5 days a week throughout the school year 25-26, and moreover, maintaining 100 instructional days as required by law. Yet our budget submission reflects the reality of the expected impact of this historic American Rescue Plan funds that have been invested in PSS or for PSS. And as you may be very well aware, ARPA funds must be used by September 30, 2024. As we outline our fiscal year 2025 budget proposal, it is worth highlighting that the federal ARPA funds and our PSS consolidated grant have supplemented the shortfall of our local funds to public education during the 3-year span of COVID-19 pandemic. Both the ARPA and CG funds mitigated the threat on the progress we made so far on our public school students' learning over the years. And it has indeed prevented additional loss of learning that could have been detrimental. For example, the COVID-19 pandemic may have resulted in the closure of our 20 school campuses and 10 Head Start centers, which temporarily halted our in-person instruction on Saipan, Tinian, and Rhoda. And yet, these federal funds or these federal grants allowed us to implement leading-edge and research-based programs to ensure uninterrupted learning during the course of the pandemic. Another example is the extensive use of digital strategies for online learning that has further supported PSS investment in teaching infrastructure for student learning. Unlike other PSS counterparts in other school districts across the nation, we transitioned to remote learning in a seamless fashion, albeit with manageable challenges. Our ARPA spending plan was aligned to the U.S. Department of Education's Return to School Roadmap. And so it is also worth noting that our PSS comprehensive ARPA spending plan was the first to be received and approved by the U.S. Department of Education, and even recommended that other school districts in other territories model our approach. I am happy to report that our Financial Budget and Planning Committee ensured that the ARPA funding was creatively and effectively utilized, and with a high level accountability and reporting system. Furthermore, it supported and covered the shortfalls of our constitutionally mandated locally funded PSS programs. The shortfall, as we know it, was the result of the lack of economic activities to generate local revenue streams during the COVID-19 years to support the government's crucial and essential service, and in particular, public education. For 3 years now, 2021, 22, 23, we used ARPA funds and CG grants to support the school district in addressing continuous implementation of critical and essential programs, which include returning to in-person learning in 2021, addressing the academic impact of the loss of instructional time by expanding online course offerings after school, along with credit recovery programs that have benefited the lower achieving students. Investing in summer learning and expanded after-school programs. Here, PSS provided extended year-long learning opportunities for elementary and secondary students by offering face-to-face credit recovery, project-based learning, and other extended learning opportunities to include career technical education, career pathways, and the Chamorro and Carolinian language heritage studies. We also utilized these grants for schools and office reconfiguration to prioritize and meet the COVID-19 requirements for safety, health, and well-being. Finally, we used ARPA to bridge the shortfall of local funding for personnel, which included, among others, but in particular, high dosage teachers, English language teachers, school nurses, and health monitors, and of course, for class size reduction. There is a saying that professional development is necessary to keep up with current trends and best practices in education. If we teach today the way we teach or the way we taught yesterday, we are not preparing our students for the future. We also use then these federal funds for professional development as required by various grants. One example of a professional development opportunity is the 21st Century Model Schools, which have shown significant return on investment by transitioning our underachieving schools to now high-performing schools. Yet, although many of these professional development opportunities require our staff and teachers to travel off-island, we are beginning to implement an initiative that establishes a strong program for training the trainer. For example, we have already sent a number of teachers to be trained on the science of reading and the science of math. And now these folks have come back, these trainers have come back and are training a good portion of our teachers on the science of literacy and the science of numeracy. Another recent initiative we made this past quarter was this consolidated grant after action review, where we convened all of our school principals and vice principals along with federal program leads to discuss various programs that were highly successful to be sustained, or programs that needed to be eliminated or merged with other programs for efficiency and effectiveness. As I alluded to earlier, we have identified fiscal year 2025 as the beginning of the post-ARPA and the future of our public education. As a team of professionals, we convened all of our principals, our vice principals, once again with our key management and program leads to explore ways to cut cost. This effort resulted in identifying, and you will see when we brief you this morning, identifying up to $4 million worth of cost-cutting measures and sacrifices across our school district for just the upcoming fiscal year. Although we came up with this amount of the potential cost savings, we made sure, however, that it would not be to the detriment of our core mission for teaching and learning. At this point, allow me to express our appreciation of the administration's commitment and your continued support by acknowledging the CNMI government's constitutional obligation in funding elementary and secondary public education. I am confident and I trust your commitment and support will prioritize the vitality of public education, especially now in this post-ARPA reality that we find ourselves in. It is worth highlighting at this point that since the enactment of the law 18-12 in 2014, PSS has used whatever it got out of that 25% constitutionally guaranteed funding to make significant improvements to our school district in multiple areas. One of the major initiatives that we've started to also embarking on right now is our strategic planning for a 5-year master plan. This has been part of my transition plan to drive strategic planning after I complete my listening tour. And in this, we managed to re-examine our 6 standing strategic priorities and found an opportunity to reimagine the direction of our academic enterprise by developing strategies to address a changing but adaptive pipeline to guide the portrait of a learner within PSS. And furthermore, the planning has allowed us to identify areas of opportunity to realign our curriculum and our portrait of a graduate to the workforce demands of our CNMI economy. A large portion of our planning will include right-sizing and scaling our staffing patterns so that we have the organizational structure to drive our strategic master plan and achieve our goals and objectives accordingly. We still have a great deal of work to do on this, on our goal to maximize and prioritize student success with a 2-pronged approach: competency-based and place-based learning. Place-based learning is what we all heard there today, the CCLHS program. This vision addresses the demands of Article 15 in the CNMI's Constitution, calling for public education that is integral to the advancement of our economy and the preservation of our indigenous language and heritage, along with the sustainability and regeneration of our beautiful paradise and its people. Moving on with this budget hearing, I would like to call your attention to the fact that along with many other achievements and accomplishments, our PSS team, our students and their families have demonstrated exceptionally well by graduating 750 high school students and promoting 710 middle school students to high school this year. It is also worth highlighting that we have been accredited for another 6 years. We received district-wide accreditation, and each of our 20 schools and all of our programs also received their individual school or program accreditation. As I conclude my remarks, I would like to acknowledge and thank our partners, and in particular, our leaders from the Carolinian community who have been instrumental in our endeavors to elevate the CCLHS teaching core. As we speak, we are currently conducting courses to certify future Carolinian teachers, an important project that we have been collaborating on since my arrival early this year. Thank you goes out to Representative Yang Timay, Mr. Nogis of the Carolinian Affairs Office, Secretary Roboloman from Community and Cultural Affairs, Ms. Marciano from the Indigenous Affairs Office, Mr. Juan Tenorio, Ms. Malua Peter, and Ms. Nazima Udin for their expert advice and support to our work in our CCLHS curriculum. It is this kind of professional relationship and community partnership that I value as Commissioner of Education. Many others have been instrumental to our work in PSS, and it is reassuring to know that we have the support from this legislative body, along with the Palacios and Apatang administration, as well as all the municipalities across all 3 islands. And I pledge to continue establishing relationships with community partners and, of course, with industry leaders, such as the Chamber of Commerce and the Department of Labor, and many others who bring value contributions to our public education mission. At this point, I just want to make sure that we know that we have slides that outline in greater detail our revenue from government funding, along with the expenditures for personnel and all other operational requirements, to include school operations, federal matching, fund requirements, instructional materials, utilities, debt service contract, and capital improvement projects. We also have slides this morning. If you want to look at, we have slides to update with the provide updates with the projects on the projects and the facilities across our 20 campuses, with various funding from FEMA, CBDG, and all the other funding sources. I want to pause at this point and say, as we say across PSS, students first and educators always. Si Zeus Masis and Olamoy.
Thank you, Dr. Camacho. I guess you're gonna continue with the presentation.
Okay, next slide.
You can't say we're hiring Carolinian teachers. You have to say, if you could read that, that'd be great. If you want me to do it, I can do it.
I want to clarify, during all of our remarks, when we speak of Carolinian teachers, we mean teachers who are able to obviously speak and teach the Carolinian language. We make every effort to comply with federal and local, obviously, laws and regulations. And I just want to make sure that we're clear on that, and we're doing everything we can. This particular slide here, let me just turn this. Can I make it bigger, please? And can you see it? Oh, you got it. Is there any way? Who's controlling the? It's okay. Sir, just want to make sure. No, I can see it now. All right. So if we look at this slide here, ladies and gentlemen, we have the on the first column there what it looked like in 2024. That's too big. One. Okay. Thank you. And then we have the 2025 per budget request, which is what I just alluded to earlier, the $39,609 and $130. And then, of course, to the right of that column, we have the 2025 revised budget that we have acknowledged with the submission of central government and the governor's revised budget submission. And then, of course, later on there, we can look and see what 2026 has, which is another project that we have. But for now, if we just focus our attention on what I presented there with the 39,609, we have 12 million to add to that from some federal fund revenue that we've gotten permission from the feds to go ahead and utilize. And then that leads us to 51,609, 130 total. You look at the expenditures for personnel, just the general fund personnel expenses of 30, and then of course the 12 million from the federal side. We have personnel cost of about $42 million, 106. $42,106,215. And then all the others there that equate up to 9.5. That gives us $51 million, 51.6 as per our budget request. Now we went back and I alluded to earlier in my remarks that we've gone up and looked at our cost-cutting measures, and the cost-cutting measures of up to $4 million is integrated and implement or integrated into this revised budget, and that is the reason why it is acceptable for 33.4 with a 12 up to 45.6 minus the $39.5 million personnel total cost that we need, and the 5.9 school operations. You can see if you look at the itemized there, school operations went from 1.9 to 1 million. The personnel went from 42 to 39, and there's some cost-cutting measures that we looked at there. The utilities, giving incentives to our schools and all across our district and departments to figure out how to, do cost-saving opportunities with utilities, and we estimate a 0.5 or a $500,000 savings there, our cost-cutting measures. And then the debt service contract went from 800 to 620. And we minus the CIP of 1 million. because we also, and we can see the progress that we're making in the construction of our facilities and all that from other funding sources. So that gives us an all others of 5.9 with an operations total of 45.6. Now, that is what we would have if appropriated, and we actually have that next fiscal year. What that means is we still continue on with 5-day week sessions, 180-day instructional school as required by law, but at the same time, it also means that we're not going to be opening up vacancies at this point. We will keep what we have. That's the sacrifice that we're making in order to proceed, right? Did you want to add anything to that, or?
I think you
Okay. Any questions? We also went ahead and showed 2026 to kind of give you a preview of what we're expecting to, budge into, but that's another, again, project in of itself. But the statement that was made earlier with the in public, that's going to require, of course, additional from what we're looking at here, 45.6, because that also requires the new FTEs for the Carolinian, Chamorro Carolinian language and heritage studies. If we were to proceed with that, it was mentioned earlier that we have folks right now from the Carolinian community who have stepped up and are participating in the course that we have offered. We've invested in that so that we can then elevate and certify those folks to, if funded for FEE, we'll get them into those classroom space to be able to teach. The one thing about the Carolinian, Chamorro and Carolinian language heritage studies, I just want to say, and I acknowledge all the sentiments from the community and from this body and from my staff, that we're so good. I think we're okay teaching the language. We need to be better in preserving it, and so we're going to work with the community leaders, like the ones I mentioned earlier, and others, to help us really reimagine the Chamorro and Carolinian language heritage studies and make sure that we're preserving it, because the Constitution calls for us to preserve it, not just teach it, but preserve it, find ways to preserve it. Students are getting the A's and B's in those classes. They're not necessarily speaking the language outside of the classroom space. So there's a problem there. So we're doing our best to fix that. I'll defer to the body for any questions.
Is that the presentation? Or are you?
Yeah. Are there any questions for this slide? And then
No.
we can move on to the next.
We'll save the questions to
Okay.
the end. Yeah.
All right. Then we'll continue on. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. The next slide just depicts in general terms what was itemized earlier. Can you go on to the next slide? Oh, are you in control? Okay. Can you move up? There you go. So this slide again just breaks down. It's more of a summary slide from the previous slide. If you want to look at the. Okay, next slide. Focusing on personnel alone, this is what it looks like across the middle school, the elementary, the middle schools, the high schools, the special programs, and then our administration. We have 972 FTEs that are authorized. Right now, we currently have employed about 903. So again, for 972, if we get this budget, we'll be able to go up to 972 from 903. But then go ahead if you want to.
Good morning, everyone. So just to clarify, the 972 on the budget is really to sustain our existing employees. Out of that, 903 are active employees. And in the event we, as Commissioner mentioned, a lot of the vacancies we're looking at closely, taking a close look at it and to ensure if we really need to fill it or not next fiscal year. So it's basically to sustain it. And out of the 903, in the event a staff that's highly paid, let's say 56,000, for example, we can revisit that later on and split that position into 2 positions. So it'll allow us the flexibility between the 903 and the 972 to make adjustments as needed based on our staffing needs at the schools. So that is our plan.
And if I may, to add to that, thank you for that, HR Director. The thing with that is, and I mentioned it earlier in my remarks, scaling and reorganizational structure, the staffing pattern. We are going to do an overall review of the staffing pattern to make sure that it is effective, and especially effective enough to support the 5-year master plan that we are working towards completing. Over. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. This year, the federal funds, and I have Ms. Jackie Che. By the way, let me introduce. We have our HR director, we have our special education director, we have our chief financial officer here, Ms. Arlene, and then we have Jackie Che to my left, who's the programs officer, and then to her left, we have Ms. Celine from the Accountability Research and Evaluation office. But go ahead, Ms. Jackie, if you want to, you can please help us identify this.
Test. I wanted to echo what Commissioner had mentioned regarding the American Rescue Plan. It really did backfill the local funding gap in the last 3 years, and it's about to expire September 30. So we received $160 million to spend for 4 years. These have funded all school operations, private schools, all programs under the district. It has also funded the CCLHS program, among others. As these funds are set to expire in September 30, we need to continue the momentum, right? We've invested a lot of money in training, in hiring folks, and a lot of folks who are ARPA funded. So now that ARPA is ending, there is a risk of having to let go of all the high impact programs, high impact personnel. Ms. Malua also mentioned earlier that these are some people that have been working extremely hard, receiving a non-extension notice, right? It's not because they were not working hard, they're not effective. It's because funding is about to expire. So what did we use the money for? I apologize that the graphs are very small, but if you could zoom in a bit into the slide, a big portion of the $160 million, more than half, was spent on personnel. The second biggest investment was in our infrastructure and equipment. A lot of the ARPA funding was spent on repairing our schools, right? We did not receive enough the FEMA funding in time, so a lot of that money went to fixing the roofs, making sure that the doors, we have new doors in the classroom, new air conditioners, new classroom furniture, new windows. The third biggest investment was on student support and enrichment. We funded a lot of high dosage tutoring, peer tutors, after school programs, summer school programs. So a lot of this funding was put into good use. And the plan really is for this budget request is to make sure that with ARPA ending, we continue to sustain all the high impact programs and all the highly effective personnel that were funded under ARPA.
Okay, next slide, please. Slide. Now, I'm going to go real quickly on this, give you a preview of where we are with our facilities, just in case you have questions on that. But we can go back and actually look at particular slides. But just bear with us, bear with me on this. It's a lot of slides, but I want to make sure that it's clear to you where we stand when it comes to our facilities and the improvement that we're making and the progress that is ongoing. And this is in partnership with not just across our PSS maintenance folks and facilities folks, but partnership with the governor's office in helping us get through those get to those funding that's already been approved to get in place these projects. And so we'll go ahead and next slide. Okay, Okay, so here we have the program funding. So if you look at, we have 404 hazard mitigation there with 2%, CDBG going at 16%, EDA really is 7% of our funding for facilities. And then we got the FEMA, the biggest one, 70%. And then, of course, we have the Arpa, which was alluded to by Ms. Jackie earlier, to kind of subsidize some of that. And you see where those come from in the subsequent slides. Next slide. I think the guy there is. So for the CDBG block grant funding, we have the FMS Middle School, for example, the school rehabilitation project here, with picture there next to it. Right now, it's in IFB submission, which is request for bids as of August 15, 2024. So that's going out for bidding. Next slide. On this one here, there are 2 phases: tiling for the portion of the campus and then fencing for restroom walkways and roof coating. Right now, we have phase 1 is being completed, and completion date of the second phase by December of this year. And this is for, no, go back real quick. That was for the Tinian Elementary School. Okay, now next slide, please. The WSR Elementary School, we have roofing, interior work, walkways, and fencing. And we have requests for bidding to be submitted by August of this year. So we're working on the scope, if you will, and then we'll be putting that out for bid. Next slide. MHS, the gymnasium HVAC is phase 1, and then the walkways, fencing, and canteen is phase 2. Submission for bidding will go out in August for that phase 1, and then for phase 2 also in August. Those then will come back, and we'll continue that. So right now, again, what we're working on, when I say the bidding is going to go out later on, it means that we're still working with the architects, the engineers to develop a scope of work. Next slide. For another FMS Building C project here, Building C replacement, actually replacing the entire building there. The A&E design is 100% complete, and that is FEMA funded. So now we're getting into the FEMA funded projects here. Next slide. We have the Cobblerville Elementary School, and that's to replace A through E buildings, the walkways, the fence, the basketball court, and the Palapala. A&E design is 90% complete, and will be completed, actually, all of that by the end of this month, and then we'll get it out to bid from there. Next slide. For the Oli Elementary School, interior work, fence, and walkways, A&E design is 60% complete, and the 90% design is due by the end of this month, and then again, perhaps by August, we'll get it out for bid. Next slide. WSR School Auditorium, big one here, and A&E thankfully is complete. That design is complete, so now we're just working with FEMA to press the send button so we can get it out to bid. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, the Daok Academy, that's an entire construction of perhaps the school for 100 student to 150 school capacity. The A&E design is 100% complete. We're just waiting for FEMA again to press fan. This is where we're working with the Public Assistance Office to get us to get FEMA to push that button so we can get it out for bid. Okay. Another funded operation here, or project here by FEMA, is the Marianas High School CTE Center, and that thankfully this is the A&E's design is complete. We got it out for bids, and we're waiting for the bids to come in, and so we can put shovel to ground here pretty soon. Hopefully, after we review the bids, and then award the project. Another, it's just more pictures of what the CTE building is going to be. This is a very special project for all of us here as we, again, realign our curriculum to meet the needs of our economy. Next slide. So everybody's interested with the Hubwood. So this here for the campus-wide replacement, this is to replace the entire damaged off of Typhoon U2, the entire campus here. Thankfully, the RFP, request for proposal, are being submitted now as we speak, and by August 16th, we'll look at all those proposals and see who to award the project to. But this is a $25 million, up to $25 million project here in of itself. Next slide. Next slide. And more of the Hubwood here now. So that was the permanent classroom space or campus that we're rebuilding. Now here is the bridging to to relieve the pressure of where the students are right now, doubling up into many classrooms because of the lack of classroom space. This now is the American Rescue Plan funded modular classroom that I am looking at. We're looking at completing by August 15, so that teachers can go in there, outfit the classroom, so that by the new school year, we would have moved students to these 20 classroom space. That will relieve the pressure as we build the new campus on the other side. Next slide. So 404 Hazard Mitigation Program, here's the breakdown of that. It's really across the many schools here from Tanapak all the way to Cobblerville. And it shows you where the and how much the money are being funded to these projects here. And this is typhoon rated window and doors refitting. Next slide. The CIP projects, we have replacing a 20-ton package cooling unit at Sinapalo Elementary School, cafeteria with $588,000 cost for that. And we look at completing this project by August. Well, project was completed by August 2023 last year. Next. Good news on that there. They're very happy. Next slide. And then Arpa funds overview. Again, another Sinapalo Elementary School library and administration building with an obligation of $212,000 there. Next slide. That also has been completed as of August of last year. Here's what it looks like. Next slide. And then Education Stability Fund, total amount of $1.0 million, and that is to again refit the doors and the windows to make sure that they're typhoon proof, along with typhoon shutters. And that's at GTC, Garapan, and OLEI. And you can see the breakdown of how much was obligated to those schools for those two different projects: the windows, the doors, and then also the typhoon shutters. And here's the breakdown of $588 million that was completed as of April. And this is the installation of typhoon-rated windows again at Garapan and GTC. Next slide. Here's what it looks like. And the supply typhoon-rated doors and windows again on OLEI. Breakdown of that completed in April. This is what it looks like. Next. More pictures of what they currently look like now with the brand new doors and windows. Next slide. And finally, I think another $221,000 aluminum shutters. Now, this is the shutter project, right? Phase 2. Next slide. That's what it looks like. Next. And then lastly, CIP ongoing projects this year. Go ahead. Here's the breakdown. Now, this is the fire protection system of 18 across 18 PSS campuses. And what it is it's broken down into zones. So you have zone 1 there with Catman, Chacha, so that cluster of schools back there on the eastern side of our island. And then zone 2 down in the south all the way up to the central part to San Vicente and Dandan. And then zone 3 further south to FMS, Cobblerville, and Southern High School. And then going back north again towards central part of Saipan, the Oleai, the Marianas High School, and then Tanapak further north. And then the two other islands is zone 6 and 7 in Tinian and Rhoda. Next slide. So if you look at those zones and where we are, you can tell this project status here, where we are with each of these zones. So we're working it slowly but surely. I think a lot of this could be completed again, and thankfully we're working it by zone, obviously with the contractor, really kind of working hand in hand with our push to ensure that projects are progressing. Next slide. This is what it's going to look like, or what it started to look like in these zones. Next slide. And finally, the food nutrition service. So, of course, the brand new cafeteria, $3.2 million cafeteria in Garapan Elementary School. We're so proud of that. It's progressing really well at this point. Next slide. This is the breakdown. We have a new completion date of September of this year. Hopefully, we can invite you down for the ribbon cutting of that. Next slide. And this is just breaking down the various contributors to the project here, from designer to the manager to the actual, implementation of the inspection that needs to be done. Here's what the pictures are starting to look like. So it's starting to evolve out of the ground here. It's looking good. Next slide. And even better here with this picture, some paint. Next. And then PSS local funds amount of $480,000 for RHI's Office of Pupil Transportation, and also the Marianas High School A&E Design Services for that. Next slide. Another breakdown, the ongoing construction, finishing the work, flooring, and all that is required of that. And this is something that we needed to have down at the Rhoda, what's that? Enos High School, right? Junior senior high school. Next slide. And this is what it looks like now, starting to go up, almost complete. And then MHS for A, B, C, D, and E. As you heard the student talk about the facilities, and the discrepancies that we have, but you can see the progress that we're making as well through these various funding sources. So that's good news for us. And we're continuing to really push hard the contractors or the designers or the funders really to get us going with these projects. Next. And just for the A&E design of all those buildings, there it is, and that's from the local funds. Next slide. That's what it's starting to look like. Next. And I told you I was going to go try and go fast with those. That's a heavy load, right? That's a lot of projects, a lot of commitment. So that's just one portion of the complex organization that we're really managing here. And we're leading the way on not just the academic enterprise to transform and really kind of bring goodness to ensure that we're advancing in the way that we need to when it comes to the academic enterprise, but we're also cognizant of the fact that the facilities and all the other programs that are required are really contributing to the end state of what we have as a core mission, and that is for the teaching and the learning, not just inside the classroom, but outside of the classroom space as well. We have quality teachers, we have competent staffing, and we need to continue, but we're doing everything we can to also figure out how to save money in the various costs that we've had. This Arpa money for the last recent years has been a lot. It's a great gift to PSS and our islands and our Commonwealth, but it's going away. So we just want to make sure that that's brought to the attention of everyone in the room and across our Commonwealth, that we value education together, obviously, but at the same time, we also need to ensure that we look at ways to fund the education that is required by our Constitution, but at the same time, please trust that we are doing everything that we can to get education to where it needs to be and modernize what we need to do, preserve our culture and the language and the heritage, and drive so that we again accomplish and achieve what is required of us out of the drafters of that idea to have this public good called public education. So I appreciate your time this morning. I appreciate you inviting us here this morning to kind of present our budget proposal, and I appreciate the questions, and we hope to have good answers for you as well throughout this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I guess before I open it up to the members, just a couple of questions. I understand it's your first budget hearing since being a commissioner, but my question is to Ms. Lizama. Welcome back to PSS. I thought you left, but you're.
I did not know she left or she was leaving.
The allotments. I mean, that's obviously the first question. Are they up to date?
Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead and press that so you can.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, on the update of allotments, last July 1st, we received 2.1 million, and that's to pay off the allotment set for the month of June. So from October to June, the central government has transferred 21.5 million to PSS, and that's out of the 28.5 allocation. So there's just $7 million left to complete the fiscal year 2024.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So they're still behind, basically, at least a month.
I think they're up to par now at this
Up to
point.
par. This
to
is the
par.
most
Yeah.
updated that we've seen
Yeah.
so
Okay.
far.
So we're grateful that they're up to par with the the transferring of funds, and that is good because we understand too that it's cash flow situation, right? And so with that, we're really grateful that we're at least up to par now. With the pace that we're going, we hope that we get all of it and not
Okay.
fall short by the end of this fiscal year.
Okay.
Over.
Thank you for that. And just to follow up on last budget, and I did post this to then Commissioner Adda with regards to the 28 million that was allotted to PSS, and the this fiscal year we were estimating the same amount. So within the last 3 years, I guess Dr. Adda was informed this body that PSS is doing whatever it takes to make cuts because we already know there's a cliff ahead. So what has PSS done over the past years? And he did mention, I believe, like non-performing programs will be taken, I guess, removed. So can you, I guess, update us on what happened in the last 3 years and how did PSS prepared itself for this cliff?
Yeah, as I mentioned in my remarks, there's a lot of things that we did to ensure that there's structure and there are systems and programs in place so that when the ARPA money goes, at least those are still evidently present and will continue. And it minimizes the need for local funding in the future years. But Ms. Jackie can outline some of the things that we have. The thing about ARPA is that it was designed to ensure that learning is not lost any further than it already has started to do in the beginning of the pandemic. And so what we did was we did everything we can. We pushed a lot of money. A lot of that money that came in was designed so that we can ensure that the learning is stabilized at least. Now, what happened is as we were doing that, we were finding, as I mentioned, leading edge programs, um, evidence-based type, research-based type programs that I thought, with the help of ARPA, getting us to establish those programs, now is there. It's evident. Now, when ARPA money goes away, obviously that's not cutting costs. That's actually, making sure there's a need for that. But what ARPA did was it made us identify the value of a lot of things that we would never have identified. But thankfully, with the money have identified, we've established those programs, and we're going to continue to need those programs in order to again sustain that learning. You can look and see the statistics. What that does is it increased a lot of our literacy and rates of learning. But how do we sustain that? We got to keep those programs. Now, a lot of those programs are going to go away, and a lot of that staffing is going to go away. And a lot of what we are saying is going away are really the ones that we hired to ensure that the pandemic situation was, again, addressed, right? That those things. But Jackie, if you have any other detailed examples of that, that would be great.
So it comes at no surprise, right, that the ARPA will be ending. We were sitting here last year talking about the impending fiscal cliff. So it's no surprise. September 30 has always been the fiscal cliff looming deadline. So what has PSS done in the last year? Let me just speak to the last year. What have we done to prepare for the cliff? I will talk on the federal side, and I'll defer to Ms. Arlene to talk about what we've done with local funding. But with federal funding, we've been very cognizant about the deadline. We've also been very proactive in reaching out to technical assistance providers, helping us set up a return of investment framework, evaluating programs. As you know, with federal money, it's only meant to supplement, right? Supplement what the CNMI government is giving PSS. So all these programs that we have at PSS, they're mostly federally funded. And we know that a lot of these are also ARPA funded. So we found ways to evaluate some of these programs. And now that ARPA is ending, we are sustaining some of them through the consolidated grant. We're not eliminating programs, we're scaling some back. Okay. But also, with Commissioner coming on board, we've been very aggressive with meeting with folks, and also recently, 2 months ago, we held a little convening, actually 3 convenings, but one in particular where we involved the principals is where we looked at the staffing pattern. What can we live without? He mentioned earlier that we found $4 million to kind of cut, right? But that's a huge cut. A lot of our schools have already been experiencing burnout, not having enough teachers. And right now we're asking them again to cut. Federal funds cannot pay for every single teacher at our schools. We can fund literacy coaches, right? Tutors, but we cannot fund every single teacher. So I'm going to defer to Ms. Arlene to talk about other cost-cutting measures that we've planned. But on a final note from my end, we've been very aggressive with looking at federal grants for green energy, ensuring that, with under Biden, right, there's a lot of green energy grants out there. So we've been very aggressive with making sure that we apply for them. Clean school bus, solar aircon, so that we can rely less on local funding for our power and utilities.
Go ahead, Ms. Sora.
Um, Following on Miss Jackie's statement, so as you notice, and based on our budget submission, 87% of our expenses is personnel. So in order to meet the budget appropriation and to plan for the fiscal cliff that we are all talking about right now, the biggest item that we are looking into is the right sizing of personnel across the district. So that's in the works. That's being discussed with the leadership team, with the school administration. Fortunately, for fiscal year 25, with the 33 million allocation, we are, as Commissioner said earlier, we are able to sustain the 180 days instruction and the 80 hours for PSS personnel. And notice that the all others expenditure has been decreased to meet the budget that was allocated. So what we have done, and through the use of the federal support, is to address the major school repairs when we had the funding for the last 3 years. So that this fiscal year 25 and going forward, those facilities, those major repairs were addressed already. So that's one thing that we ensured that was taken care of the last 3 years. We are we will need to implement cost-cutting measures for the fiscal year 25 going forward, and that's operational expenses, utilities, and just all others that we can think of just to meet the fund allocation that we set for each school and department. So my main answer for what we have done for the last 3 years was, again, addressing the major needs, especially for schools, facilities requirement, repairs requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. But the graph showed that 80 million dollars was spent on personnel. And I guess that's for retention and all that's needed to be done. But that doesn't answer the question of what has PSS done to at least curb the expense, so that when the day happens, the impact will not be as great. We understand the administration has funded an additional 5 million to PSS, which is great, and the reduction of your 4 million, so that brings you up to about 39 million, right? Roughly. We're just looking at it from numbers. My second comment is on the $22 million set aside for infrastructure. None of them is, I guess, canceled. It's ongoing right now. Based on the graph, $22 million was used out of is for infrastructure. I'm assuming those were the classroom upgrades and so forth. So none of those, I guess, ARPA funds were canceled so we can.
They've already been obligated, and I'll have Jackie
Yeah.
talk further on that, but it's already been obligated. That's why the project's ongoing, so that we can rest assured is
Mhm.
coming, or has already come in terms of the
So
funding for
it's
that.
not going to be canceled. It's
No.
No.
That is money set aside for
I
repairs
understand.
and
Yeah.
earmarked already. We anticipate having those completed by September.
Right. So what I'm trying to get at is like what we found out in the second senator districts. Not all of the ARPA funds were used. It was still pending. So what this body is trying to get at is what savings can we make so we can reprogram, or maybe PSS can reprogram if those projects are not pushing through.
So with ARPA, we take a look at our spending plan every 6 months to make sure that we're in progress for all our projects, to make sure that we're able to reallocate funding to different projects that are behind. None of the projects are canceled. They're all ongoing. All the funding is already earmarked. We are also reaching the end of ARPA. So this July, we are going to be submitting an amendment request to the U.S. Department of Education to see how we can further reprogram funds to meet these obligations, right? We are on track, on schedule. We are not behind in our spending, and we anticipate having fully expend 100% of ARPA by September 30.
Okay. And that's the $12 million year. That's based on what you're
Yes.
reporting here. That's the remaining.
That's
ARPA.
the remaining ARPA that we set aside for personnel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the obligation of 30 September deadline, we've asked our programs, our schools, everyone who's receiving ARPA money to obligate or give us we gave them a deadline of 31 July to obligate, and then that then tells us how much is left. It'll meet that $12 million anticipation that we're going to have to supplement what will be next year's funding source, so that we can make up the need for that 45. Remember, we need 52. We can live with 45 because of all the other cost-cutting measures and this 12. And that is the reason why we came down from 39 to the 33.6 that the governor had resubmitted for his own budget.
Okay. So the other federal grants that are not ARPA, I guess these are the regular program. I guess my question is, and you didn't mention that not every employee can be switched over to the federal side, but what is the percentage of the federal program is on for all others?
Can you repeat the question regarding the percentage?
So of the total, I believe last fiscal year we mentioned that if I'm not mistaken, about 30 some million is from regular grant, not the ARPA.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, what is the percentage of that total amount? I'm just showing a 30 million. I just forgot the exact amount.
Yeah.
Is for all others.
Yeah, go ahead.
So and I'll have Jackie get into the details of this, but you're talking about the consolidated grant that is about 20, hovering around 19 to 20, and then we have the other federally funded programs like the Head Start, the
Right.
special ed, and all that, which goes up to 30. Now those funding sources go straight down to those employees. Now, in addition to that, we have the locally funded FTEs.
Right.
So there are two separate.
Yes, I understand. I guess what I'm trying to get at is of that total amount, is there a number that we are looking at that we can, I guess, cover the all others, because you have your all others here at 9 million. So we're trying to see what can from the federal grants can help lower down school operations and so forth. Is it allowed?
And I'll have Ms. Arlene talk about that, but part of the all others is really our matching funds for those
Right.
big federal programs that come in, or grants that come in for the Head Start and the SPED. So we can't use the federal money to
Right.
to add on for that, because that's required of our local funds to match, not to use another federal fund to match that, but we have to use our local funds.
Okay.
So by regulation. That's
I guess Miss
No.
Arlene can answer the percentage between what the governor has currently submit, the revised, which is 30, 33, I guess. What is the percentage it will be given or be allocated to all others?
So for all others, as presented earlier on the slides,
Mm.
out of the 33.4, we know that 27.5 will go to personnel.
Right.
So the remaining 6 million will go to all others. So 6 million, if we're looking just percentage alone, 6 divided by 33, 18% is all others. And please know that these all others, like Commissioner said, include about 2.4 million for local matching required by Head Start and special education.
Okay.
And the rest of the expenses are for school, safety, cleaning, and security. So the school knows that the local allocation is specific for emergency use, for school safety, cleanliness, and just security alone.
Thank you. I'll recognize the vice chair. I think he has FEMA questions.
Good morning, Commissioner, and to the PSS team. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your presentation, and I apologize to each and every one of you for showing up a little bit late this morning. But just on the just to go back to the grants that's separate from the line item grants that PSS received, how much was received by PSS for the CARES Act?
For ESF2, we received $21 million.
What was there's no limitation. That was the pretty open-ended when the CARES Act flew into PSS, right? How about ARPA? How much total on ARPA?
For ARPA, $160 million.
And with that 160, how much is left of ARPA?
As of July 11, there's $32 million left.
32 mil. And I guess, we'll meet timeliness in spending the remaining?
I hope so. Yes. Ask me end of July.
Well, I know you on the slide it showed 12 million has been allocated. What's the $20 million?
So the remaining 20 million is already earmarked towards repairs.
Repairs, okay.
For infrastructure and the final purchase of school classroom furniture.
Okay. And you had mentioned when you spoke earlier that a lot of ARPA funds was utilized to pay for FEMA approved projects because of FEMA's delay in getting the money to you guys.
So I have to rescind that statement because all the FEMA protected projects, we did not touch that because there's already FEMA funding that's going to take care of it. But for those that still need repairs, like there's some schools that need repairs that were not funded under FEMA, ARPA came in to supplement and cover that expense.
So no FEMA projects were ARPA funds were utilized to address the FEMA projects?
I'm going to give you an example of Hopwood Middle School. Hopwood Middle School was supposed to be 100% funded by FEMA. But because of the delays with that, we were able to use ARPA funding for the 20 modulars, and then FEMA funding would take care of the entire construction of the school.
Okay, I'm asking this question because 5 years ago, after you two, PSS came to the delegation asking for funds to address some of the schools that were FEMA approved projects. And we actually appropriated some of those funds over there. And some of the projects were actually touched, and then FEMA took the money back. And that's one of the reasons why we're very careful in appropriating, after that period, we were very careful in appropriating projects to PSS damaged properties because we were losing the FEMA monies.
I think Ms. Arlene was talked about $500,000 amount that it equated up to. That was appropriate. I'm not sure that all of it came though after that
I
appropriation.
think that $500,000 that was for the CCLA program that we appropriated. That was back in the
Yeah,
22nd legislature. But prior to that, we had appropriated funds to address some. If I'm not mistaken, it was WSR, Cagman, Hopwood, maybe Oliai, Garapan, San Roque. And one of those projects was actually touched using SNIOD funds, and FEMA pulled the money back. So that's I'm asking the what with these ARPA funds that were utilized to address some of these projects, are some of them FEMA projects, and if so, can we get reimbursed for those to at least to the ARPA account?
I know that the Hopwood modular classroom is not going to be reimbursed by FEMA. The FEMA that was allocated for Hopwood was 25, and it really was for the permanent. What we did was we used ARPA to relieve that pressure currently as a bridging to that point when we finally get the structures completed in construction. We're looking at 2 year down the road, continued suffering of our students there and our teachers there, doubling up in those classroom space. So what we did was we got permission to utilize the ARPA fund to fund the modular classroom as a bridging to that 2 year mark of completing that permanent structure. That $3.9 million modular classroom project is not going to go back to, obviously, to be added to the FEMA funds of the 25. They've only allocated 25.
Sure, and that's understood, right? Because that's an additional project that PSS is, I guess, doing there for Hopwood, but it's the other projects. I don't know, 2019 to maybe 2022, were there projects that utilize, I guess you consider local funds, whether it's
Yeah.
appropriated by by the budget or appropriated by SNIOD or
Yeah.
tenure
think-
delegation or
yeah.
the delegation.
Thank you for that. I think we did go back to look at those because when we had this meeting prior to this convening, we had to go research whether or not the money actually came in. And Ms. Art, you can answer whether or not the money that was appropriated for those that we asked for 5 years ago actually was received by PSS. Over.
Thank you, Commissioner. So back in 2020, we received about, actually, we were allocated about 745 for, hold on, let me just get, 745,000 as from SNIL to address different repairs for school. So out of 745, 535,000 was actually used to address those repairs. That was detailed in the SNID allocation. It's a different school. Like you said, we have Hopwood, we have Southern, San Vicente. So those were addressed. Out of 745, we received 535. We did not get the balance, 210,000. So those 210 that was not received, I believe we used local funding to address the repairs that was not addressed out of the 545.
Okay. On the local funds.
Yes.
What I know there's a couple of local laws that address that, but do you know the specific one that's shorting PSS the $200,000+ so we can address that and get it to PSS?
It's SLL 21-10.
And I would hope that, sir, if I may, when we do identify that and we reappropriate it back because we were short in 210,000, we can work together on addressing that for that need that we need to address when it comes to the CCLHS. If we can work through that in the language, that would be great and beneficial. And I say that because I think a lot of what was intended for that money to be used is already now addressed with a lot of these other projects that are ongoing. Over.
Okay. And okay, sorry, back to the ARPAs. We're like going all over the place here. There's $20 million left. They've all been obligated. I understand that you're saying that September 30 is the hard date, right? But we can expend the funds up to 2026. are we able to reprogram some of those funds to address the shortages in regards to the budget that PSS wants and the budget that's actually in front of us today?
We are only able to reprogram funds before September 30. You mentioned 2026, that's the liquidation deadline. No, so any reprogramming would have to be done within the next couple months.
And is that in the works right now? Just so we can consider the funds encumbered prior to the hard date of September 30.
Commissioner mentioned that we have an internal deadline of end of July.
End of July.
Because you don't want to, obligate things to the very last day,
Sure.
September
sure.
30. So our internal deadline is July, and then from there we can see how we can reprogram the remaining funds left.
With the remaining $20 million, how restrictive is it?
ARPA, compared with the grants that we currently have, is not as restrictive. As long as we can justify operational continuity, number one, as long as we can justify that it's COVID related and it's addressing student learning loss. But in terms of the flexibility of reprogramming, we can only do it within the next couple months. So we did set aside the $12 million to cover the local shortfall. Other than that, time is also not on our side to be courageous to make all these changes between now and September.
Okay, I asked that because it's not as restrictive as other grants that PSS receives, correct? Would PSS be willing to obligate the $20 million into this budget for personnel, and the loose $20 million from this fiscal year of 20 or the 2025 fiscal year, we can include in the budget language that would allow PSS to encumber those funds into 2026? Would that be something that PSS will consider? Or not 20 million, I'm just throwing $20 million as the amount, but maybe $10 million.
So the $12 million that we saw in the slide earlier was meant to cover personnel up until the last payroll. I think the last payroll would be October 18. And up until then, we cannot continue using the funds to fund personnel beyond that time, even if
Well,
we encumber.
Yeah,
right?
but you're justifying it for education, right?
Yeah.
And if you allocate the funds to address the personnel up to 2026, possibly 2026, I'm trying to give you guys some flexibility to open the local fund so you can carry it over to 2026 or use it as needed to cover the shortfall of whatever 33 to 39 million dollars would be.
Sir, I think I like the design and the intention of that. What we need to do is really look at the end of this month where we stand when it comes to that. And then we have to ask permission to reprogram whatever is left. The 12 were good. We're safe with the 12. Whatever is left off of that 20 or so, after our programs have readjusted and have obligated to that point that they had the intentions of using that money for, whatever is left, we're going to have to work with our federal program to really kind of, I like the design. We just got to get permission. And as she mentioned, time is of the essence when it comes to this. It's pretty courageous to go back to our federal grantors to ask to reprogram that for that type of strategy. Although that strategy is really good, and I wish that I think so. What we need to do is really wait to the end of the month, and then we'll sit down with you and kind of see and address this. It's good intention, but we just got to make sure that we got that permission from the grantors.
Sure, and this is really to allow you guys to be flexible with the funds, right? Where we're looking at other local laws that money's never really made it to PSS and readdressing the shortage of PSS. And what we would like to do is to allow PSS to expand beyond the fiscal year, or spend the money beyond the fiscal year. So if we're able to do that, we can actually technically increase PSS's budget moving forward to 2026 so that this cliff that we're in right now can be addressed at its current period of 25. But in addition to that, we'll have monies already readily available for PSS in 2026 without expending the funds in 2025. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, TT. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Now open the floor. Rep. Angelo.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning to you, Commissioner, and your team. I guess my question would be on your earlier slide, the general fund personnel expenses, is that inclusive of the central personnel or just the schools?
It is inclusive.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question would be, well, I'm not sure if you can speak on behalf of the board, but I see that they are requesting a total amount of 364,000. And of the amount, 240,000 will be allocated for personnel, which includes 6 NOPs. So I guess my question would be like, what are the NOPs and uh, what operations will they be using that funding for? Because I see also that they're asking for like 105,000 for operations. So
I'll let any one of these do. I tend to defer answering the requests of our board, but I think our folks really understand what the needs are for those requests.
Um, so let me answer that question. So for the Board of Education, the 6 FTE 241,000, and their average all others, which is for their office operation, is 105,000 based on their needs right now. So now we understand that the fund that's allocated to them is 153,000. So that's not sufficient to fund what they need currently. If I may say this, PSS through Arpa is funding the personnel for the board as up to September 30. And the 153,000 is being used for their operation. So that has been happening for the past 3 years. Now for fiscal year 25, with 153,000 only, the board knows that the commissioner and them needs to sit down on how to address the needs of their office.
thank you, Chairman. I yield for now.
Thank you, Rep. Angelo. I recognize the Chairman for Education, Rep. Manny.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome, Commissioner, and your leadership team. Recently, we were able to tour members of our members of this body. Some of us were able to attend and tour the solar farm in Manila, Guam. So, given the fact that many of our schools in the public school system have solar PV installed on their rooftop, I just wanted to find out, like for one school, let's say William S. Regis, do you happen to know how many kilowatts that the system can provide, not only for the school, but is there excess that it can provide to outside of the school?
Okay, so if I may just provide an overview, thank you for that question on the situation with our solar panels. All of our schools, as I understand it, have solar panels installed on top of their roofs. None of them is functional right now. We have a contract that we've signed with the MRE, a company that came in and installed those solar panels. Part of the contract was to install net metering apparatus so that we can then work off of the savings of that and work that through CUC. Since my arrival, it was, a lot of net meters were installed, except for, I think, initially at the beginning of this year, 78 left. And then now, I think the last report I got was 18 more left to install net meters. As we are working towards making sure that net meters were installed, the company has also asked us to look at another option besides the first contract that we signed, which was install the panels, we install the net meters, and then we save off of that. I think we were given some utilization or rates towards the utilization of what we estimate the power to be coming out of our solar panels. And it was a great savings from what we are currently being charged out of our CUC with the grid power that's coming to our schools. And we estimated about $1 million worth of savings for the year with that. And then there's no telling how much more we could get credit back from CUC if the net meters actually gave power back, or those solar panels through the net metering gave power back to the community, and then whatever credit that would be, that could be a little bit more. So there was great intentions for that. Now the company has also asked us to relook at another option, which is to buy out the solar panels, and there's going to be a little bit more. So the numbers is really very bright for us when it comes to that. It's just now we're working through the company on the maintenance and the sustainability aspect of that, and the insurance now that we are gonna, if we proceed with that. So the board allowed us to sign an agreement with the company to go and look into that and give us a new rate based on the purchase and what that means, right? So it's going to be a $13 million purchase. We get some grants or whatnot from federal government to supplement or to finance some of the $13 million cost and whatever that looks like. And then we have for 25 years see a great savings that pays back the purchase. So we're in the middle of that. I know that's a long answer to your question about what one school is providing power to and how much it could provide to the community. At this point, there's none because we don't know. We haven't started the producing of the power because we've been waiting for these solar panels to be installed. And at the same time, one of the other issues that we're running into, and there's a reason why we're being presented with a new purchase agreement or a new proposal, is because when we first started the contract and the negotiation for these panels to be installed, Hopwood was included in that, and some other buildings were included in that. Now that we have not installed the panels there, that means that they're not going to be consuming the power that we thought we were going to be consuming. So we had to go back and look at the numbers and see what rates they would charge us now that the consumption rate has gone down because of the lack of panels on those buildings that are not up yet. And so that we're caught up in that. So I know that's, again, a long answer to your question, but that's where we are when it comes to our solar panels. We, wake up every day not saving, and I know that company says they wake up every day not making money as well. So we're working through this together, and the board thankfully has allowed us to continue to research and see where best we could do this. But we can't wait to the day when we turn on all of our solar panels and start saving money. Over.
Just in line, thank you again, PSS, for forward thinking in terms of energy. The more solar panels and cost savings we use with renewables, it helps the economy overall, importing less fossil fuels. But in line with the new CTE building, it'll be probably be a very strategic move to also provide the curriculum so our people can be involved in renewable technology, and the graduates coming out of PSS can be not only the installers but also the personnel that are maintaining the solar PV, if not owning solar PV companies. So it's not just about being the buyers, but also training our youth and our future graduates to be the sellers as well. And just the fact that each school is located within the community, you basically have a microgrid already in each precinct. So that's another way for PSS to generate revenue and feed three birds with one seed: generate revenue, train the future workforce, and also provide cost savings for our community.
Thank you for that. We'll surely consider that as part of our CTE and this academy that we're envisioning to address the technical needs of our community, our island, our CNMI. There's going to be some, obviously, research on what kind of instructors and teachers, the expertise is going to be required. So we're going to need to come back and ask this body to invest in that as well, because we don't currently have that. But it's a great idea. I see where that is going. I saw that in Guam with the Guam Community College actually doing boot camps with their GP, Guam Power Authority, and working aligned with the solar panel business. and making sure that they have the capacity to repair those panels and that the expertise are there. So they have a model. We can certainly kind of look at that as well with NM Tech and NMC locally here and our CTE program. Over.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, let's not wait for NM Tech or NMC. If possible, as a product of PSS, there's a lot of career technical programs that I experienced at Hopwood, and given the technology nowadays, there's a lot of charter schools that have such curriculum, professional technical centers. So we don't have to wait for NMC, but again, in line with the Constitution, what is relevant to our community needs, if we can make it happen, please let's make it happen earlier rather than later. In addition, I just wanted to get clarification on. Recently, I was made aware that for CCLHS, there was a contract issued to the University of Guam. Or there was a bid that was made, and University of Guam won that bid. Can you enlighten me on that specific contract?
Sure. So, understanding the disparity between the amount of Chamorro language teachers we have and the little bit of Carolinian teachers we have, we needed to figure out what the problem was. The problem is we need the individuals who come in to be teachers of the Carolinian curriculum to be coming in with the level of certification that we need all of our teachers to have, and that's the basic, with some amount of college credit hours and all that. In the absence of that, with the participants in this program, we needed to make sure that they're certified and that certification, that credit is aligned with what is required out of our HR classification for basic teaching, right? To be able to go in a classroom and teach the curriculum. So after we identified what that looks like, we designed and we work with the Carolinian leadership, community leadership on addressing this issue through the idea of training individuals to be certified, to be able to teach the curriculum. And so with that, we put out for bid, open for any institution to come in and bid, to say that we can come in and teach your soon-to-be teachers or would-be teachers on how to best deliver the curriculum in a classroom space. So the pedagogical and all that. So we identified 3 different courses along the way for this summer. We didn't want to rush to failure, but we want to make sure that we could address that problem as soon as we can, and we're doing that right now as we speak. They're here now. The University of Guam was the one who came in with a bid and said we could do this, and so they're providing the materials, the actual instructors, and all of the things that require for our participants to come into the classroom, learn throughout the summer, and then be certified at the end.
So for the Chamorro language, I have no issues with the University of Guam, but when it comes to the Carolinian language, I'm not quite sure if they have an existing Carolinian language program.
Yeah, I think we gotta be clear on what the intent is behind the program that we're talking about here. The intent is to make anyone like myself could go in and actually be able to understand the classroom space and be able to know how to deliver the curriculum that I know, because I speak the vernacular, and then be able to deliver. That's the intent behind it. It's not, they're not here to teach the Carolinian curriculum. They're here to teach how to best deliver the Carolinian curriculum in the classroom space, because that was the problem, because we don't have enough folks that have that type of capacity or that certification that meets that requirement to go in a classroom and deliver the curriculum.
And to your knowledge, there was no local provider that bid on the, whether it's NMC or any, was it limited to institutions, or were there, let's say, there might be Carolinians with a professional credential to be able to conduct such training?
I think, when, and I don't know, because I did not do the research on the Carolinian community and the capacity that they have to be able to teach teachers to be trained to teach in the classroom space. What I know is that we have the School of Education at the Northern Marianas College, the School of Education at the University of Guam, and they are designed, so they have curriculums designed so that they teach teachers, future teachers, to be able to deliver curriculums in the classroom space. So we put it out for bid, and the institution, University of Guam, submitted the bid for that. Over.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair, you.
Thank you, Rep. Manny. I apologize. I forgot to say, does anyone need the restroom? Feel free to walk in and out. We're trying to finish this by 12, so feel free to walk in and out. Chair recognizes Rep. Patsu and then Rep. Marissa.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Commissioner and your team. Just a few questions. First, under your presentation under facility development and management, I know you mentioned that under CDBG grants that there are some projects for WSR for fencing and pathways. I see that there's newly constructed fencing already in WSR. This is not part of it, or this is an expansion that you're under your presentation.
I need to go look back at that slide, but there's, because it's like a multiple prong projects. It could very well be part of it. Otherwise, it'll be a separate project to complete the overall installation of those
Okay.
fencing.
Thank you for that clarification. My other question would be on the ARPA funds that you use for the 20 temporary classrooms of Hobwood. You mentioned earlier that this is not reimbursable by FEMA. So since we're using the terminology of temporary classrooms, what are the plans when the fully blown FEMA facility of Hobwood, are you gonna demolish these
No.
temporary rooms? What are the can you expound
Sure.
expand more on that?
Thank you for that question. It is important to note that when we invest in $3.9 million, we want to make sure that that investment continues on and sustains a lot of what we need it for, right? So thankfully, that investment right now will temporarily bridge what we need to continue to ensure that there's no more learning loss at Hopwood. But I know for a fact that we have places like GTC who cannot build because of the situation with the land there. And so we can't build as much as we want to build new classroom space there. But we can then take 2 years later the modular classrooms to be delivered over to GTC to solve some of the classroom shortage that they have over there. Now, when we were doing this and we were, talking with PAO and the contractor on what kind of classroom and envisioning the classroom space, it's not just the classroom that we needed. We really needed a modular classroom to be able to collapse it back down and then be able to reposition the same classroom space somewhere else. And so that was the intent behind that.
Thank you for that clarification. And my next question would be, as you guys mentioned, right, with regards to the remaining 12 million or perhaps the 32 million of ARPA, and that having to know that September 30 is just around the corner, and the intention of amending the spending plan with U.S. Treasury, perhaps, right? What is the time frame? When have you guys ever tried to amend ARPA funds, and what are the time frame? Do we still have time to make amendments and make sure that we exhaust all these funds?
Yes, we do. We have made several instances where we requested for an amendment, and the turnaround time is 1 to 2 days for approval.
Thank you. 1 to 2 days is definitely can happen within now and September. So, and then my last question would lead me, Commissioner, how many staff do you have under Central, under you?
We have the breakdown.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't
get
see
to
that
that,
in your presentation.
There's one with the all the schools and then the central staff, right? About 200 some.
No, just the 200 some under Central itself,
Yes.
excluding the principals and all that?
Yeah,
Oh, 200
so
some.
we've tried to break it down, central office and then all the 20 campuses that we have, administrators and staff.
Okay. Thank you, Vice. You for now.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. And before I recognize Rep. Marissa Flores, Commissioner, if it's possible to share those slides with the project breakdown that PSS is.
Roger, yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Rep. Marissa Flores, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you, Commissioner and team, for coming. Obviously, I was listening attentively during the public comments, and there is a huge concern on the sustainability and the support for language courses and being offered to the, I suppose, majority of this would be the elementary students, correct?
Yes, our plan, and we're strategically re-looking at the curriculum that we have across the board. And as I mentioned earlier, I think we're okay teaching it. We're
Okay.
teaching the language fine, and maybe not so much even the Carolinian. We're trying to fix that so that we can teach it better with more Carolinian teachers.
Okay.
The preservation of that is the problem. So we're looking at what other ways to adjust the curriculum
Okay.
so that we can do that.
All right. And Commissioner, I know that our chairman said that he wants to finish by 12. However, I don't think 12 o'clock is going to be enough for me to ask my question. So if we could limit your answers to really short sentences, I appreciate that. I don't think a couple hours is enough for me to understand the budget submission by PSS, but because we are limited on time, and I know that some of our other reps want to speak, may I ask that whatever question I ask, you try to keep it short and simple so that I can also allot for somebody else. So in terms of ARPA fund, you mentioned that majority of that funding source went to pay personnel. How many personnel in central office were awarded raises or incentives from these funds?
I think those things happened before my time, so I'll have Lucretia from the HR kind of explain it in a very quick fashion.
Thank you for the question. So for under ARPA, nothing is allowable for any adjustments under ARPA. So no one received any adjustments.
Okay. Do you have currently a pay scale schedule?
Yes, we do.
Is that the one from 2017, or has there been any changes?
The 2017 with the reduction amounts are in place at the moment.
Okay. And you have how many federal programs, Commissioner?
How many federal programs do we have? I lost count.
Federal programs or federal grants?
Federal grants.
A total of, let's say, around 20 plus.
Okay. And on each of these funding sources, do they all each have a travel budget?
Yes, they do.
Are these federally mandated?
Some are mandated, some are not.
How many are mandated?
I could not give the exact amount of grants that are mandated, but let's say, for example, special education, Head Start, child nutrition program, there are mandated meetings
Okay.
that these folks have to go to.
Okay, so may I ask that whoever's office is responsible for providing that type of data, could you please provide us on the federal side, what grants are afforded travel and how many of those within that grant award are mandated travel? Because it seems that a lot of your expenses are on travel. And it also appears that in terms of reform and success and train the trainer, I keep seeing the same people travel over and over and over again. Now, I'm not sure how this works, but in terms of providing the best outcome for students, it would be beneficial if that is, there's a process to that. Is there an oversight process in terms of who gets to travel often and who doesn't get to travel?
I can answer that. No, there's not a good oversight process right now. We have a system in place, and I think what I told our team yesterday is that we could do better and really kind of, hold ourselves accountable for that.
Okay, so in terms of accountability, Commissioner, I highly recommend that that plan be updated soon. And will that plan be approved by the Board of Education? Or is
It's-
that an internal policy at your discretion?
It's part of our strategic planning process, and it'll be approved. Obviously, the strategic planning process is going to be delivered to the Board of Education
So the
for
board would
their concurrence.
also approve your travel policy and approve travel for the next fiscal year. Is that right?
Yes, currently they approve all travel, federal funded travel, and they would obviously be approving the new policy that we would put in place.
Okay, now, and I'm going to get here real quick. I've been approached, sent submission and email of all kinds of complaints. And I'm not here to mention to you, but I think it's important when it comes to pay and when it comes to travel. And my question is valid, and my statement will be valid because it's in terms of planning and budget. And to support what you are requesting, it's important to know the bad and the good. So I'm going to read something real quick, and then I'll go right into my question. So this came from a private citizen. I will not mention more than that. I know that you have a big personnel, about over 1,000 people or less than 1,000. That's a big amount of people there. So one of the things this person mentioned, and I'm just going to take excerpts from this, specifically inquire about the wasteful spending by the key management in the central office in terms of salaries and travel. Please help clarify how they justify paying every department directors upwards over 85,000 to 100. How many directors do you have, sir?
Go ahead.
Currently, we have 16.
16. Okay. So how are they, in your pay scale, how are they afforded their wages? How do you appropriately and fairly distribute how much they will get paid?
To answer that, first things first, HRO conducts an assessment to determine if they meet the minimum qualification requirement. And then based on the minimum qualification requirement and their credentials that are accredited towards that, we determine within the range provided, for example, 75 to 85, if they've met that. And then every 2 years of service after that is a step up. So that's how we determine and place them on that salary scale.
So are directors also teachers?
No, they're not.
So what is what is the assessment that you go through?
So the minimum qualification requirements could be a bachelor's degree in 5 years, or it could be a master's degree in 2 to 3 years.
And they don't teach?
We are all educators of the public school system. So as needed, we do go out and support the schools. For example, during the COVID times, we did have directors that went out and helped in the classroom.
But the frontline workers are really the teachers in the classroom, correct?
Yes, teachers
Okay,
in the
thank you. So then this person mentioned, why do we have an associate commissioner or other high-paying positions that barely make an impact in the system? Describe to me, what is the role of an associate commissioner?
Let me just say that to kind of, because we're running out of time, as you mentioned earlier, allow me to go back, because we're doing our strategic planning and we're readdressing our organizational structure. All that could be addressed if that person comes to me and gives me the details. We could work off of that. But rest assured that we are looking at our staffing pattern. I say right scaling and right sizing is the intent behind it.
All right, and thank you for that, and I hope that's done soon. So I'll tell you why. Because these people, and many people that probably you don't see on a daily basis, Commissioner, have a fear of bringing up their concerns to your central team and your top management team, for the record. So I'll just move along. In terms of grants, do you outsource anybody to apply for grants?
No,
How are grants being applied for through the public school system?
they're applied internally, either
How?
through the project director managing that particular grant or through a committee.
And
writing
is there an
committee.
oversight committee?
No oversight committee, but there are some grants that have to go through the process of being presented to the board and then
Mhm.
approved by the commissioner.
Okay, so she mentioned something about directors. So I'm assuming your 16 directors apply for the grants?
Not particularly. The directors are, some of them are operational.
Okay.
Some are actual grant directors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when they write for the grants, is there any, because I know some other agencies that applied for grants, and you guys, I guess in your 2022 audit, you didn't apply for any indirect costs. It wasn't applied to many of these grants. So in terms of the grant and the person applying for their grant, if they're a director who applies for the grant, are their salaries also included in this grant on top
Yes.
of their base?
No, nothing on top of their base, just a salary that's approved by the compensation plan.
Okay, and how many people on this compensation plan?
Everyone who's a grant project director
Mhm.
are included in the approved compensation plan.
Okay.
So they will not go beyond what they're assessed at.
Does the board see this?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So if I was a grant or a project director and I write a grant and I'm getting over $100,000 and I now get awarded this grant, or in the grant, I am applying for personnel costs, I can go ahead and apply additional costs to cover my salary?
No,
No.
no.
Okay. But you don't have an oversight?
The only oversight would be Federal Programs Office.
Okay.
Human Resource Office, the Board of Education, and then the Commissioner.
All right, so, okay, now let's move forward, because I think a lot of this, I'm going to go ahead and request that I ask PSS for some documents so that I can advocate correctly when in terms of what the school, the system is applying for, because just like you, I believe in students first. So do you currently have a travel policy?
Yes, we do.
Updated?
The policy is updated, yes.
Were there any lapse funds identified last fiscal year?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Is there a waiting list in any of your programs for student enrollment?
No, only in Head Start.
How many?
I think we have anywhere from 75 to 100 right now.
And why is there a long waiting list, sir?
We're only approved a certain amount
Okay.
through our capacity, but
All
I'll say, and I'll make it quick,
Okay.
that we're addressing that problem because there is a gap. We find that there's a lot of goodness in Head Start, preparing our students to go
Okay.
before they go into kindergarten. So we're looking at a universal pre-K program.
Got it. So in terms of SNILD, how many, I guess, the SNILD delegation over the past 3 years, how many local laws were passed to support the needs of the public school system? Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get that. We'll go ahead and ask for that. But a total of 700,000, she mentioned, correct? And out of that 700,000, only 500,000 was given to you. So there was a balance that still wasn't provided, right? Okay, about 200,000.
6 local laws is
6?
what we count.
And what were
From-
the periods of that? What year?
From the 18th legislature to the 22nd.
Got it. Okay. And then I'll go ahead and we'll ask. If you can provide us that, I'd really appreciate that. But we can go ahead and check here. But I think I'd like to see that coming from your books. Are there any local funds that support any summer programs? No?
No.
Okay.
Federal.
When you're, and I'm sorry, I keep going back and forth. My questions are all, travel reports are due by all of the travelers, right? Okay.
Yes.
Now I'm going to just shift over to the Board of Education. You mentioned that there is an operating fund that they're requesting of over 150,000, is that right? And what does that pay for besides operations?
Operations.
For BOE operation personnel, so
Okay.
that's what it pays for.
So salaries
Yes,
of the 7 people that you have on the FTE.
that's right.
Okay. 150,000 for FTEs?
It won't be enough, but that's what their budget will be.
Okay. How much does the board get paid for your per meeting?
$30.
$30. Are there any other incentives?
None.
No incentives.
None.
They don't have a discretion?
That's the
They have a minimal professional development account
And what is that used for?
that is used for their laptops, their professional development activities.
There's no other funding source besides that?
No,
So they don't get any money outside of any equipment for their performance and their fiduciary responsibility to get paid anything?
no.
Nothing. Okay. But what if they opt not to have any of these laptops and you've earmarked them already for expenditure? Can they use that for something else?
They would have to request for the approval of the chair, the
Okay.
chairperson.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, the excess funding gets donated back to the schools.
So what is that figure?
$12,000 per board member.
12,000 per board member. So if they don't use it for any equipment, they have the discretion at the approval of the chairman to use $12,000 at their disposal.
Yeah. It has there. We have an internal procedure where if they do not expend the funds, it goes back and be replenished for a following year.
Okay.
They have that option, or they have the option of giving it back to the schools.
Okay. And is this audited?
Yes.
Okay.
All finances are audited.
Okay. I think I'm just going to make a statement before I stop. But there was a lawsuit before I go ahead and make my comment and then give up my time. There was a lawsuit that was, I guess, judged and they adjudicated on this. How is that lawsuit being paid?
Which lawsuit are you talking about, please?
How many do you have?
I know of one that right now that has been filed for the contract that we where we contracted another company.
Mhm.
That's ongoing. That's still being litigated.
Well, let's just talk about the one that's owed and that was already addressed by the court for PSS to pay.
I have Mr. Mike Ernest who tracks down our lawsuits and actually files them.
If I may,
Recognize, yes.
presently PSS is involved, to my knowledge, in 2 ongoing lawsuits. One is a parent suing the system regarding a fight that happened on school property,
Mhm.
and another is an appeal of a procurement matter
Mhm.
involving the provision of photocopy services.
Okay.
Those are the only 2 ongoing lawsuits of which I am presently aware.
For
To my-
this,
that spring to mind.
okay, well, there was one that was just, I guess that was settled. There was a case that was settled for an undisclosed amount. How is that being paid? And that made the newspaper, so this is part of,
Yeah, I think HR and
is it paid by local funds or is it, obviously you can't use
it
federal
would have
funds?
to be local funds.
Okay. But in none of the local funds does it say that you guys have discretion to use for any lawsuits, correct? Okay, I'll go ahead and get further clarification on that. But that was my last one. And before I end, I'd just like to make a comment. There are a wide range of topics related to funding the public school system, the administration, and accountability in educational organization. It touches upon issues such as the impact of consistent attendance as training sessions, funding for legal settlements and lawsuits, the use and distribution of federal funds, accountability in the use of funds for travel and training, grants, oversight, allocation of salaries, use of Arpa funds, travel policies, classroom versus non-classroom expenses, and the intention of professional and educational organizations. We should emphasize, Chairman, that the importance of focusing on student needs and maintaining accountability in all aspects of the administration of the public school system and its funding. It is worth considering whether the same individuals that consistently attend training sessions as this could impact the effectiveness and training and the allocation of services, which I did ask you, Commissioner, which I will get, because I feel that there is an injustice in terms of how many people travel every single time, every single year, and I have no data to tell the public school or the students or the parents if that the training that they went to was effective. It is crucial to understand that the use of federal funds and their explicit use in classroom instruction is addressed. We must hold ourselves once again accountable and to ensure equity in their distribution. I believe that 5 million that was promised or not promised, but allocated on the governor's proposal of $5 million should be addressed on how that money would be distributed. I do not believe that any more money should be given to the central office for directors when money should be given to the students and the teachers at the first level as they enter the school system, because this will be an injustice to continue to give the central office hundreds and thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, when they only provide direction, but the people that actually do the work are in the school with the students. There are programs that ensure parent-teacher accountability. I have yet to see any of that data, but yet here we are. Thank you, Chairman. I yield.
Rep Cobre. Sorry, Vincent.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Commissioners and PSS for, coming over and, providing us with your time. With regards to solar, and your communications as well. So when PSS took the venture in investing in renewable, did PSS go through this venture under a loan or was it a grant?
The first venture or the current venture that we're in, and we haven't revised this current contract that we have. We didn't spend any money to install those panels. Those panels were installed. Our duty was to consume the energy that is provided out of those solar panels, and then pay the consumption at a certain rate.
So the company that provided the system to you gave you the system. You
They
didn't pay
installed
for
the system with the intent to provide us the power, and then what power we consume, we pay.
Okay, so
That was the initial intent. Now they're asking us to relook at the previous contract and look at a new contract, which is to purchase all of those panels and then at a better rate be able to pay back.
right, because ever since PSS went into this venture, you have not received or had anything placed online, correct?
Correct.
Right. So when PSS first ventured into this journey, you estimated that you would have saved $1 million annually.
Correct.
But yet none of that has materialized.
Correct.
Correct. Now, is it CUC, the one that is not implementing or connecting to the grid, or is there something wrong with the system that the company provided to you that prevents that from being connected to the grid?
No, again, the panels were number one to install, and then to install net meters so we can get into the power for the panels to produce the power we consume and we pay. That was the intent. Not all the net meters have been installed. There's, I think, 18 more still to be installed. In the meantime, we're looking at another venture of trying to come up with the best, and we're not going to get lost in the numbers. I'm going to limit my response to this, but I explained earlier that we're looking at the new plan that is being proposed to us, and thankfully for the board, allowing us to look into that with the same company that installed those panels.
So so first off, you haven't received any return on investment, right? I mean,
We
this
didn't
is-
invest anything yet.
Right, yeah. And then, so how much is this company are actually going to charge you for using their system to create or provide you power?
So at the first initial contract, we were proposed, I think, 13 cent per kilowatt, vice the 40 cents that we're paying now. So that would look good, but we haven't received any of that benefit yet because we haven't finished the installation of the net meters. Now we have to go back and relook because we said we were going to install this many solar panels. We did not because of the destruction of the other buildings that we were going to install panels on. And so we're relooking at that. So they're looking at the number and they may charge us a little bit more than 13 with the next proposal.
How much are they charging you right now? CUC
They're proposing around 13 cents.
No. How much is CUC charging you
I
right
think
now?
about 40.
40?
Is that right? You're paying the bill, so
So CUC is charging you 40 cents when technically it's supposed to be 30, like commercial rate, because PSS is on the commercial rate, is it not?
We are being charged commercial 40 cents, including the non-LIAC charges. But we are being charged commercial rate.
You are being charged commercial rate
for
at
the
40
fuel.
cents for the fuel.
Whatever is the fuel, the LIAC rate, that's what we be in charge for.
Okay, right. And then, so out of the 78 systems that you guys have, you got 18 remaining to get that net metering installed, correct?
no, we have more than 78, but upon my arrival, there were 78 to be installed. We pushed and pushed, and now we have 18 more to install.
Okay, so is there a reason why those that have already installed have not been connected yet?
Again, we're relooking at the rates because the initial proposal, the initial contract that we signed for was to install so many panels. With the destruction of some buildings, we did not install the many panels that we thought we were going to. In the meantime, we were trying to install all these net meters. So the 13-cent rate is now being relooked into because of, again, the anticipated consumption is going to be lower than what was initially agreed on.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking this, because the system that you guys have right now, because I'm trying to make sure that, you know, that you guys are saving as much money as you can, because we don't have a whole lot of money to give to begin with, right? Because you guys ventured into this, you know, program like what, in 2018, 2017, if I'm not mistaken. That's when you guys had the panels already starting to get installed, correct? At that time frame.
That was around 2019 as
Right.
well.
So at 2019, and from my last time we talked about this, your per panel, they were only able to produce 375 to 400 watt per panel. Right now, the panels are producing 500. So I'm wondering, you know, as the year goes by and your system is getting out of dated, your return on investment technically is not going to be, you know, realized. Because right now, if MRI or MRE, right, is going to be charging you a system that, you know, is going to be degraded, and it's getting degraded every year, and they're not, you know, giving you brand new ones, but yet they're going to charge you a rate that is, you know, off. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, and we'll look into that. But what I've been informed is that there's none of this degrading that you're talking about. But we'll verify and make sure. But I understand what your line of questioning is.
My last question is: has any of PSS's building being have conducted any energy audit for the buildings?
Not to my knowledge, and I think we haven't experienced such auditing.
Okay, and so I highly recommend that you get somebody in there to audit your buildings, so that way they could see what's wrong, if there's any in your system, so that you could recognize, you know.
There is a grant for relooking at that, and so we're going to be into that.
What grant is that?
There are a couple grants that are upcoming where it requires that we do an energy audit. So work is underway to do that.
So what grant is that?
It's the Clean School Bus Grant, Renew America School Grant.
Okay. And so are you guys working with the governor's office with what do you call it, the Building Back America grant to ensure that what's it? build back, something like that. But to reduce the carbon footprint so that
Yeah.
maybe you guys can
And-
update your transportation
Yes,
system.
and the governor's office has been inviting us to those meetings, and we're working with them. There was a gap in the way we were collaborating, and now we're trying to catch back up on those things.
Right, because as I was looking at your budget, $2.5 million is a lot of money, and I'm thinking that that's just on the utility side, but on your transportation side, diesel engines are not, diesel fuel is not cheap. And then the maintenance that goes into that ain't cheap either. So when you realize the amount of money that you could save on energy and your transportation, you're talking about more than $3 million in savings. Because just driving back and forth on those buses are, and the maintenance cost of that, you could save a pretty penny. So I'm hoping that you guys can, really work with the governor's office to try to get that so that, because like I said, we don't have a whole lot of money to give, but we're scratching every barrel that we can and flipping every rock. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Vincent. Next I have is Rep. Vicente Camacho.
Good morning. I'm cold and I'm hungry, so maybe I'll do the close-up. Very quickly, there was an initial proposal from the governor submitted for PSS at 27,715,372, correct? And then a revised budget was submitted for an additional 5.7, I think it was, which bumped you guys up to 33,466, right? It shows on the analysis, but you still have a shortfall, what, 6.1 something, right? That's what we're looking at, the shortfall, 6.1. I'm sure this body will be able to come up with 6.1. This is PSS we're talking about. And thank you, sir, for giving up your leadership in Guam to come here and take the lead. It's very important. I don't know how much they're paying you, but this is a big ship you have to, run around. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. Rep. Question or comment?
Are you scared of question or comment? Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, afternoon, Mr. Commissioner, and to your key staff that you have. I'm not new to education, but I just like to say this. I also share the thoughts of no child left behind, and I'm more concerned of the learning process of the kids. Commissioner, first of all, I was looking at the Chamorro Carolinian heritage studies, and it's budgeted for, proposed budget was 25,000. And then I would like to ask you, Commissioner, how many FTEs do you have within this, Lucretia?
I'll have Lucretia get with the real numbers, but I know that we have so many Chamorro and so many Carolinian teachers, and then the others that work around that program.
All right, thank you for that question. So we currently have a total of 56 providing services to CCLHS, 40 teachers which provide to the Chamorro content, and 16 that provide the Carolinian content.
I like to know about that because, back in time when Frank Grabauliman was also part of PSS, then PSS did not have a structure of the Carolinian language program. The Chamorro language program had a structure, but they didn't formulate any structure for the Carolinian at that time. But I'm so glad and proud that they have now. And I like to see this move forward with regards to our students. You know, it's our identity. All of us that are here, it's our identity. You know, being a Chamorro and Carolinian that we're here, whether we're Filipino, and still, it's our identity. So I support that program, and I thank PSS for moving forward with this. Another thing too, Mr. Commissioner, is that, like I said, back in the day, we have this what they call DARE program. It's a drug abuse and rehabilitation in education. This program is an old program that was implemented in days, and I mean in years. Manny Castro is here to know that, and even Vince had done. They were here to witness that type of program. Unfortunately, it was stricken out from us because due to on-call circumstances with the program, something was violated with regards to the expectation of the program, and we were cut off from that. But now, I think they give us about 15 years to be able to revisit back the opportunity. So, you know, with the drug situation that we have in the school system, not only in the school system, but out in the community, by capturing this type of effort on the younger years, on the young generation, you know, like in the early childhood, even up to the elementary level, I think it will be very beneficial for us to more or less try to implement this program as much as possible. And I know you have to write a grant for this. I think this is one of the federal grants that if you have 20 grants that you're writing for PSS, this is going to be probably the 21st grant. But this would really help the community. And that's basically what I like to see that goes along. I like to share some thoughts too. I've seen, you know, in the past and even to now I know that the technologies has really taken it up for in the forefront, and everything in even in the school level, the kids, the students and whatnot are involved in it. But I feel that, and not only that, I'm not the only one that feel it. There's other people that feel that parental collaboration and parental involvement within the school, most especially in the early childhood and the elementary level, to try to get these parents involved more in order for us to, you know, it's a character building to have a good collaboration between parents and students. And I think, you know, maybe it's worthwhile to think back. I know we think about solar energy and we think about all these things, but we don't really realize that the effect of all of this, if we don't try to foster this type of program, it eventually, you know, we see all the different issues that we're having as we, you know, grow older and everything. For me, I'm not worried about for myself already, but I'm worried about the future generation, even including my own kids too. And that is why I'm, you know, trying to put an emphasis on this area, because I know this area would solve a lot of our even drug issues and a lot of issues. It will mold the person from a bad person up to better themselves. So, you know, in a layman's explanation, that's how I felt like, and that's how I like to share with you guys. And Commissioner, thank you for all of you guys. I think you guys have done a great job. But then also, I like to say this on my last is that please, when you come for a hearing or something, bring board members so they can have the content knowledge of what is being or something that transpired within the hearing or the meeting, so they know and you will know, so there is a good decision. If you're coming to make a decision, there is a collaborative effort and there's concerted effort together. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Spoken like a good former board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep Beneventi. I'll take one more. I know we hit the 12 o'clock. Rep
Thank
Angelo.
you, Chairman. I'll make it quick. I just want to say I'll be remiss if I didn't share this ongoing issue in regards to the shuffling of the principals and vice principals. My office has received so many calls and emails in regards to this, decision. And I just wanted to share one particular email that was shared. And the reason why I chose this email is because it came from a young student, which reads, I am writing to express my concerns regarding the recent decisions to shuffle principals and vice principals across our district. I urge you to reconsider the strategy, as stability in leadership is crucial for maintaining educational continuity and fostering strong community relationships. I believe we can work together to find a solution that best serves our students and staffs. So with that being said, I feel like it's my obligation as the representative of Precinct 5 to respectfully ask to reconsider this decision. Thank you.
And if I may respond to that, there is a response out of my office that was, I think, published today in today's paper. So that says it all. There's no decision that has been made. I continue to look into this, and I'm considering every bit of information that comes through. But this is part of our strategic plan, and it is to not to shuffle. I don't like the word shuffle. I like to say that we would strategically rotate principals to where we believe they're needed most in those other areas. It's suspect to know that if you're a rock star in one area, why can't you not be a rock star in another area? That's just the way I operate. So we'll look into that, but thank you for that. And I appreciate all the input from the community on that aspect. Over.
Thank you, Rep Angelo. You yield. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any follow-up?
Thank you. Commissioner, I'm sorry. I guess I was so involved in my own questions and my statements, but I didn't get a response from you. How are the lawsuits, or at least the one lawsuit that was settled, or the settlement, how is that being paid? And have any payments been made to the settlement?
Yes, it's not a lawsuit. It was a settlement.
I think at this time,
Hold on. Let me quick recess because we're back. Was that clear? Okay. Being there's no more questions or with regards to the budget submittal, I know we went a little off tangent, but with that, if there's no further, thank you, Commissioner. We are Obviously, none of us here are questioning the submittal of the administration. It's before us now, and so we are going to act on it. I don't believe anybody's challenging any of the amount. That's what's given to us, so that's what we're working with. And with that, if there's no further, I'll yield back to you for any closing statement if you choose to.
The only thing I'd like to say is, again, I want to thank you, and I'm grateful for this body in working with us and collaborating. I invite any other specifics that we would like to discuss. I'm open. My door's open. We can sit down. I like that actually better than trying to kind of litigate outside of the office space. We can work in and work it out together and actually discuss it so we understand. I appreciate the input from community and from leaders to kind of inform us on how to do it best, because I've always said that we are not there by ourselves. We need the community support in all of this to make it a better place for us. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and present, and I appreciate the reassuring statement that you just made. It's in front of you now, and we'll do your best to ensure that we get what we think we need. Just rest assured and trust that we've done our best as well to go back and scrape our barrel to ensure that we come up with the right number and not just ask. There is a $150 million projection, and that $150 million projection, there's a certain percentage that needs to come to us, but we've worked it out with our wonderful administration on coming up with the right number to at least make us survive through the fiscal year 25. For 26, I'm again willing to work with this body and everyone else to see what it's going to look like and how we can achieve that so that the learning continues and that we don't reduce our instructional days. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dr. Camacho. Any other? Okay. Being there's none, is Cagman scared of losing Ben Jones? Being none, thank you, members. And with that, I'll adjourn at 12:14 p.m. Thank you.